On this week's episode, the crew is here to discuss Breath of the Wild story. Hello everyone, welcome to a new episode of Zelda Talk, and finally, we're getting into Breath of the Wild story, no holds bar. This is a spoiler cast. That's your one and only warning. As you can see, I'm joined by a lot of people here. Who's with me today?
Me!
This is how we should introduce everything. I like this a lot better. This is way better than anything we've ever done. I'm kidding.
I'm Kyle Bosman.
Of course.
Kyle Bosman.
I'm Kyle Bosman.
Everyone here.
You know.
Kyle Bosman here. Breath of the Wild story. This has been requested for a while. We were supposed to do it last week, but we tried to find a time. I wanted as many people to be involved in this as possible. And as you can see, there are 6 of us here who have finished or played enough of the game that we feel ready to talk about it. And I want to start off with the simple question to everybody here. Did you end up liking Breath of the Wild story? How did you feel about it, and did you ultimately enjoy it, or did you find faults in it, basically?
I 100% love it because it's hardly there.
Okay.
Like, I don't want to sit through any more dialogue or cutscenes than I do in this game. Like, I love it that I just get to play more.
All right. I mean, I kind of get that you tend to like the minimalist storytelling and like learning through like the world itself, like that type of world building.
Yeah.
But did you feel it did a good job of it, or was it just delivering a story that you more preferred that style?
What was there impacted me. I don't know. Finishing Terrytown, finishing Kasa's storyline, the end memories. You know, they're emotional. I think Terrytown and Kos were more emotional than the main storyline.
Oh.
Just because I was like, oh, that's nice, you know. Like, Bolton, favorite character.
Bolton's a really good character.
When he was like, I want to find a spouse, I was like, I want that to be a quest. I want to help you find a spouse.
Oh.
DLC, baby.
I know, I
DLC.
hope so. Oh, my God.
You play as Bolton.
I want to find him,
You roam the world for a spouse.
Oh, my God. And you can, marry, and you have, one option for every, area.
Oh, cool.
I'm going to marry a bird, man.
Yeah.
Bolton's marrying a bird, man. For sure.
So there's not the one spouse. It's like you get to choose.
There's a Goron, there's a bird, there's a Rito, there's a Zora, yeah.
A
you
Guardian.
can choose.
There's an absurd amount of options.
Yeah.
They're all
Yeah.
intricately written.
Yeah. All of them are 30 hour.
Right.
And you have to get your social link up to 9 before you can. Yeah.
Nice. So you liked a lot of the side quest stories, though, it seems.
Yeah.
More so than the actual main narrative, then.
Yeah.
The
I
stuff-
didn't dislike any of the stories.
That's
but...
exactly why I'm in the middle.
Okay.
I'm taking the middle road on the story because when I care more about side quests rather than the main story, that affects me. I'm disappointed in that I'm finding more emotional investment on an optional thing rather than the big grand main quest.
Do you think that's because the side quests are kind of more laser focused? They have continuous development, whereas I'm just saying my opinion, the main story is a bit fractured because of the structure of the game.
Yeah.
The developers even said in the making of videos that they struggled with how to present the main story because they didn't know when players would encounter certain plot points.
Right.
That's how the memory concept was born, that you could go out and do it in any order you want. I mean, is that how you feel, Huber? That because it relied heavily on these, they're optional too. You don't have to get all of them either. This optional main story, whereas the side quest, it's also optional, but it's more linear in nature. You can still do it at any time, but if you just follow it, it seems like you get a better payoff right away.
Yeah, I get that. It might have been a little choppy. I did all the memories, so I got all those.
The 13th one, too?
I guess I was hoping...
Time out. What's the 13th one? We can't just drop that.
It's
You
still...
didn't do it?
Did you not do it, Kyle?
I don't know what it is.
Okay,
After you do the 12... Oh,
Yeah.
sorry.
She says do this one in this
Yeah,
one area.
look at this.
Yeah, it's the painting one.
Yeah.
It's just explains what happened in the link. Yeah.
I do feel like the side quests have an edge because the characters in them, by and large, are still alive. So, that is a thing to consider. Yeah. Every character in the main storyline is dead besides Link and Impa.
I was kind of disappointed by the story of this game.
Okay.
I thought it was a little too simple. There wasn't a lot to it. Most of it revolved around what happened back in the past. and that's it. That was like the entire story of the game. Not a lot that was going on. Like the stories that were going on were you got briefly when you go to like things for the beasts, you know. That was the most you got of the current story. But everything else just focused on the past, and there wasn't even a lot to it.
Okay.
It was like, hey, Ganon came and wiped everyone out, and Zelda's trapped. That's pretty much it.
I would tend to... I actually agree with you, Brad. And a little bit of what you said earlier, Ian. I felt a majority of the main narrative revolved around what happened back 100 years ago.
Right, yeah.
The stuff that transpired with what happened to Link, that mystery, which is the 13th memory, combined with how did these four champions perish? Like, how did everything go to hell?
Right.
And the king's story at the beginning gives you like glimpse into that, but each of the four stories during each of the Divine Beasts gives you more of that backstory.
Yeah.
And like their story was, hey Link, I got beat by this guy. Be careful. And that was it.
The dialogue when
That's
the
like
boss
it.
appears each time is like, this guy got the best of me.
Yeah, like,
Remember
that's it.
that, Link?
That's it, man.
It's like,
That
thanks
was
for
a little
reminding me.
Disappointing because it would have been nice if one or something of the Guardians was a little different. Because
It's
it was
heavy
the same.
the first time. The
Yeah,
first
right.
time you're like, oh,
Especially if you do
Mimosa.
Mifa first, like I did Mifa first, I was
Oh,
like,
okay,
oh
yeah.
god, this is sad.
Yeah.
Mifa's
Like she's in love with you and then died and like is like still okay with it. And it's like, whoa.
I think
Yeah.
the things in the main narrative that I enjoyed the most, I didn't get enough of. Specifically with Zelda, I wanted a little bit more of the strained relationship with her father, her interest in being a researcher, and the burden of being royalty. I felt like all of that stuff was touched on, but not enough to really get me invested. I wanted more a sense of who Zelda was than what I ended up
And
getting.
Mifa too, like Mifa and her family,
Right.
and like her, it being weird that she loves Hylian, or like if there was just a little more there,
Right,
What
because
they could have
potentially interesting.
What
Yeah.
they could have done was have more of like the things you read. Like when you read the king's like journal or whatever you find at Hyrule Castle,
Right.
giving just a little more context on some things. They could have had just a little more. They could have added something with that, you know?
Yeah.
So here's why I think you could call it a bad story, because I love it big time, and I think that the story is the way it is because they wanted to make the game the way it is.
Yeah.
Right.
Link doesn't undergo a big change in 100 years. There's nothing fundamentally different about the Link today than the Link that got beaten up 100 years ago.
Right.
And in fact, this Link just goes and does the mission that all four of the other Guardians were supposed to do, and then he just beats those bosses and then beats Ganon without really acquiring any new power or knowledge or anything.
Personally.
I mean-
yeah. It's like, why is he
because he
stronger
had the
now?
Master Sword in the flashbacks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
That could
Right.
have been something in the flashback. Maybe he didn't have it,
Right.
and now he gets it in the
Or that
present.
he-
So
Or that he had it. I think they kind of maybe hinted at this, but like that he had it, but he hadn't mastered it yet.
And
He's swinging it. He's swinging that
Right,
thing back
I don't
then.
know.
Yeah.
You talk about that change, I think that's totally right, because you have this whole concept of him awakening to the idea that he is this legendary hero,
Yeah.
but the entire time, we know.
Yeah.
Like, there's no twist there, there's nothing playing with that idea, it's not interesting seeing him uncover the fact that he's the one that's going to fix everything, because we already know that that's the case.
Yeah. I think the one change, if I were to answer my own question, is that he's got time now. Now he's got time. Zelda's frozen everything.
Right.
Link can
Yeah,
go take care of
there you
everything
go.
all by himself.
Right.
Which is silly. That's just silly.
Yeah, I mean...
but he's also using the. Sorry to cut you off.
No, go
but he's
ahead.
using the mistakes of the four companions.
Yeah.
Like learning from them, they're helping him.
But he
through,
doesn't
through
really.
their
What does
death.
he learn
He
from
doesn't
them?
really, though.
Yeah.
They just say, look
The
out.
theory-
Link.
Yeah, that's it.
The
True.
theory.
The theory.
is-
Yeah.
That's the thing is like the narrative. Oh, sorry. You go.
I was going to say, like, I don't think he, like, learns anything specifically, Kyle. But I know you think the point's silly, but the fact is, like, it was a surprise attack. They had no idea that Ganon was going to be able to commandeer everything that they had put together in place to stop him. Commandeer the Guardians. It was like this this evil Deus Machina, like, okay, somehow Ganon magically
Skynet.
took control of everything, but they were able, like, Zelda used, like, her last bit of power to, like, just restrain him. Not defeat him, but restrain
time.
him.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
gave time for Link to heal, and then, like, hey, Link, time's running out, but we know what happened now. Like, they understood the problem, now we know what to do. You can go back to these divine beasts, free them of their influence from Ganon, reclaim them, and then while Ganon's in this, like, sealed state, we can re-prepare everything, and then attack, like, basically re-attack him. and do what we intended to do.
Right. In terms of a hero story,
Oh yeah,
Right.
that's not
like,
compelling. I would say.
It's pretty weak.
If
I'll
you
give you
look
that.
at it as like screenwriting standpoint, hero's journey standpoint, like this is Act 1 of
Sure.
not a great Act 1. Like a memory play only works if once you gain the memories, then you grow and change and do a thing. But here it's just because of the structure of the game, like you said, it's just here's the memories, and it's not an active storyline. Like Link is an active hero in that he's going and doing all these things and changing the world in that way, but it's not an active protagonist in that all the story developments are things that just already happened and are told to you.
Yeah, and I actually think the development of that, it has nothing to do with Link. And in fact, in most games, I think Link's development always revolves around like getting the Master Sword or some ability, and like that's pretty much it. It's this culmination of I got the power, now I can go save the day. It actually was more of Zelda's revelation moment because the story was about her dealing with the pressure of having to fulfill her destiny to acquire this sacred power that her father's like, nothing else matters in this world. You have to do this or we're screwed. And she's like, no, I'm a person. Like, I want to do what I'm interested in. And then the final memory reveals that in that moment of desperation when Link was about to die, it triggered something inside of her where she gains the power. Like, she uses it. It was the moment of revelation for her, and the payoff there is like, how did Zelda get this power then if she's not getting it this whole time?
I mean, building on top of that, I actually would almost say that Zelda is the main character of this game, not Link.
Legend of Zelda.
Yeah. Link, Link is just like a blunt instrument. He always has been. He's just a thing that swings a sword. Link doesn't really matter. It's Zelda's story, and like all the memories are about Zelda. Link's just standing there. He doesn't talk. Link is not a character.
So
he's a blank slate that you control with a joystick.
About that real quick, and I'm kind of curious about everyone's thoughts. I asked Blood and Jones on the previous episode about voice work, about Link being a mute. And I brought up the point that in the game, they actually explain that Link does talk in their world.
Right.
But Zelda has to
you
fit that. The Diary of Zelda reveals that like Link actually has a personality, and she was trying to fish it out of him.
Right.
I kind of want to know, did you feel that works in this narrative of like these characters having these dialogue scenes around them, building up this world? Did it take you out of it that Link was just like mute the whole time and didn't really react, or did that take away from the fact that did you feel like he's not the main? He really wasn't the main character.
It just made me feel like he's just the camera. He's not a person. You know?
Okay.
I really like that diary entry, though. Link's justification for his own silence is the pressure on himself. Like Zelda has pressure on her. He's like, hey, I have to be this warrior. I have to be this knight this whole time. And you can't show emotion if you're in that position. You can't show any little shred of weakness or humanity, or else people pinpoint that if your purpose is to be a shield. And so I kind of liked that, a weird justification for Link being silent. He could speak words still.
Yeah.
He'd still say, like,
totally.
shut up. And it would be such a cool character if he said shut up
Well,
once.
but like you're clicking on dialogue options as Link, and then he's clearly explaining like very complex, long form ideas to other characters. You just don't hear them.
To me, all that's doing is indicating that pressure exists. We don't ever see it manifest. I want to see if that is central to his character, that he has to be this warrior. I want to see him struggle with that. I want to see moments of weakness. Like, just that existing as a concept on its own doesn't really add or take away anything for me.
I want to echo upon your point there, Ben, and something you made a point about earlier. This game does do a lot of bringing up concepts and ideas that aren't ever fully realized.
Yeah.
And it may be because of the nature of the game, because of how it's structured, that they just couldn't flesh out certain things without running into issues of the story wouldn't make sense because it couldn't run into it. But this whole concept of having these champions, I want to specifically talk about like the champions with this point. The heroes in the past, I was looking forward to this kind of like camaraderie being developed. A lot of the memories do revolve around meeting them, seeing them, like the Rivali exchange. I thought Rivali was actually one of the best side characters in the game. I actually like
Is he the really cocky
the
one?
Rito, the cocky one. The voice work. Like, yeah, he did his, like, to me it was like he's supposed to be annoying and stuff. This is like great.
He's a very well done garbage person.
And then in the present, they have their replacements who are nowhere near as interesting to me.
Right,
like sure. Kyle and I earlier when we were getting ready for this, I was like, who is the name of the Rito warrior in the present who just literally his only job is to fly him up? He's like this guy named Teba or Tiba or something. It was like
non-factor.
Just literally a lot of their jobs is just like as a gameplay mechanism to advance you to the dungeon. And I was just like, I was looking so forward to learning more about these characters and maybe seeing them work as a team. Maybe not gameplay wise, and it just teases these moments about it, but never fully realizes that potential.
What's the Shark Zor guy?
Sidon or
I feel like they did
or...
a little more with him though, because they gave more backstory on everyone else from that, instead of like the Gerudo guy.
Then he just like
Who's,
disappears.
I mean, he's there though. He's in the village. He's in Zora's domain still.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
They all do. They're all just like there.
I'm not saying it's great,
Yeah.
but you got a little more with him.
Totally.
So the way I played this game was Gerudo Village first. That's the first place I went to, and I think if you start there, everything's really good about the story and the dungeons and everything. But in that scenario, you do learn a lot about this present person who's replaced Urbosa.
Oh, Riju.
Yeah, it's got
the
a really
little
cool
girl?
side quest
Yeah.
where you go up and into the ninja domain.
Oh yeah.
That's my favorite part of the game.
That
Yeah.
was a good part of
Favorite
that
story.
game.
It's really hard to get into the village.
Yep.
It's really there's lots of interesting things about the
Koga
Gerudo.
is the name of their leader.
Yeah.
The Yiga
Man,
clan.
The Yiga
Yiga
clan.
clan.
is their
Yiga
I
clan,
wish
yeah.
they brought him
Yeah.
back, Koga.
The
That's
Yiga
what we're gonna do
clan?
That was
more
such a
now.
cool sequence.
Yeah.
Yes,
Well,
Kyle.
and
Fight
like
was a lot of fun.
that has a lasting impact on the game too, because when you beat him, then he's like, my guys are never gonna stop chasing you
And they
down.
start
And then
showing
from
up a
then
lot,
on,
yeah.
they start showing up all the time.
Yeah.
And at first, those guys are hard.
Oh, my
See,
favorite's
that's-
like finding an NPC.
Oh, the one with
who's
the
one of
wind
them in
blades?
disguise.
Yeah.
Oh.
Best things.
Oh, the wind blades, yeah.
I
did
when
the-
those wind blade guys show up first, you're like, oh my god.
I did the Gerudo part last.
Oh.
Okay.
And it was awesome for me running into the Yiga
Yeah.
clan and having them be built up as sort of this mysterious
Right,
force.
yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, I completely echo the sentiment.
I did it second, so yeah, I had a bit of that where I was like, oh, these guys are creepy, and then I
Right.
got to fight them, you know, and I was like, oh.
Where you want to know more and they feel like they're connected to the world at large. Yeah, more of that would have been good. Just kind of taking some of these characters or some of these ideas and spreading them out a little bit more to make it feel connected.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other ones are really just like, oh yeah, there's our temple. Go on up in
Yep.
there. It's
Yeah,
like,
like
okay.
All right, you
Goron
did
one
it.
was-
Thanks.
The Goron
Yep.
one was not good. Like the whole sequence with the chieftain.
Sneaking.
What was his name? Yunobo was the name of the
Yunobo.
Goron youth. That really annoying character, which I
Who's
called
a
like
cannonball.
a bad
Oh,
Michelangelo.
you shut up the.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just runs around screaming half the time, and then
I liked him.
I didn't dislike him, but yeah, he was.
I felt he was okay. I'll say
I liked
he,
that he was rolling around the village.
I felt he was the weakest of all the characters there, but there wasn't like too much development there. I felt it was basically go help him get medicine, you know, and then okay, now I'll take you.
How short some of that stuff
And then
was.
the escort part leading. I know it's
Oh, going
gameplay,
up the
but
mountain,
like,
yeah.
it was
Yeah.
not my favorite sequence. But
It's just I love all the side characters that make up the story. You know, again, I'm mixed with the main narrative, but just coming across like the painter that tells you about the different
Oh, yeah.
regions and finding him
Kitana
all
or whatever
over.
his name is.
Great
Like,
face.
there's so many great characters
Have you
that
just
don't
sat
have a
and watched
huge
him paint?
impact on the story,
No, why
but
does he add?
still like
He-
make the world
He
better.
paints and like he'll like look at the thing for a little. I'm sorry. He'll like look at the thing and then he'll do a little brush and then he'll do a little brush and then every so often he just goes like that and then he like considers it. It's really fun animation.
cool.
What is the name of the bard?
Cass.
Cass.
or Cass.
Cass,
yeah.
Cass. Best character. Like whenever I'd see him in the world, I'm like, oh my god.
So he's got a side quest?
Yeah.
He's
Bunch?
got a huge
Yeah.
It's a
side quest.
very long quest line.
Yeah.
If you,
Yeah.
if you get all of his shrines and then do the thing with all of his kids, it unlocks like his ending.
What's his ending?
Do you want to know?
Yeah, it's spoiler.
But do
Spoilers
you
are
wanna
on.
know?
Yeah.
I can never tell if you're just doing this for the audience or if you actually haven't done
I'm not going to go back in the game and do all his quests, so
Oh,
just
okay.
tell me.
Okay.
He's like standing there looking out and like tells you one last song and like it's kind of like wrapping up his storyline with his mentor who died.
Yeah.
It's like it's really good and like there's a scene before that when he's standing there with all of his kids. He's got these 5 daughters
Yeah.
and they're all so cute.
The multicolored kids who
Uh-huh.
sing?
Yep.
who
Those
sing?
are
Oh,
his
cool.
kids,
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm like, oh man, Cass, whatever.
So
Some say
one of his
Cosmo.
things is like
Cosmo.
17 of 24. It's like, remember this, 17 of 24. And I'm like, I will never
Oh,
remember
that's
that.
just
Sorry,
one of the
go ahead.
puzzles. It's just a clock. It's just like at 2 o'clock, the sun
Yeah.
will let you see this metal thing in the water.
Ah, nice.
That one is the hero's cache where you use the magnesis to lift a thing out, and then it's really funny because you just get a gold rupee or whatever, so it's like 300 rupees, and then you go back up and talk to him, and he's like, "That was it, huh?" Well, I guess being a hero doesn't lead to a lot of wealth.
Sure.
And then you're both
That's
just
cool.
kind of like, yeah.
That's really cool, actually.
Because I was like, yeah, I'm gonna get 10 G's. I'm gonna be able to unlock that last fairy fountain or something
Mhm.
without having to grind the snowball game. Like, this will be great.
Mhm.
Like 300. I'm like, oh, all right.
Kill those boars.
Kind of want to bring up I was trying to think of something else to talk about the side quest stuff. Maybe we'll come back to me in a second. But one of the things I did want to bring up was the ending of this game.
Yes.
The payoff to the story. I will start off by saying I felt, to me, it was completely under-delivered because I felt that the final boss, Calamity Ganon, was just an amalgamation of the other four, visually. Just looked like the four other bosses put together, which I guess some people can find that cool, but he had no personality. Just like personality-less force of destruction. The king tries to justify it early on by saying Ganon has been reincarnated for a while, but he turned into this malice form, which is a mindless beast, just destroys everything. And then I was expecting more of a payoff from it, other than just it was what they said, a mindless beast and this cool-looking battle, but I just remember all the past encounters with Ganon, it didn't feel as momentous as some of them. And then that last sequence, fighting the beast form, was just like a victory lap. No tension, no anything to that. Just robbed it of anything of that moment. And I felt like they weaved the story about 10,000 years ago, all these divine beasts. I was like, what's the big revelation here? It's just like a lot of unanswered stuff, and Ganon just gets sealed away again at the end. I was like, no, you gave me the same thing I've seen dozens of times before. This is stop doing this. If you're
Ganon is like the tipping scale of for me loving the story to being completely in the middle, is because villains matter to me more than a hero, and for it to just be some mindless evil beast with little to no motivation
other than rage.
Was just it felt like there were no stakes.
Despite
him taking over the world, there were still no stakes.
Just think back. I'm just going to compare to other Zelda games to keep within this. Feel free to draw upon any other games. I'm thinking back to Ganon in The Wind Waker and Ocarina of Time.
And
Those
Twilight
depictions.
Princess, too.
And, he was better in Twilight Princess, but I wouldn't use it as a shining example of good villain development. He's kind of Deus Machina in there, just shows up at the end randomly. But The Wind Waker, he had motivation. You got to understand him.
Yes.
He's like, I coveted Hyrule. With the scene at the end when the wind's blowing in his face, he goes, "This reminds me of the green fields of Hyrule. My people only knew suffering and death. Yeah. I just wanted a piece of what you had, but your king and your kingdom kicked us out and tossed us aside." And in Twilight Princess, they built upon that. The Arbiter's grounds were built solely to execute them and kill them. They've been oppressed, and even Ganondorf in Ocarina of Time, every time he showed up, the screen presence he had. Mm-hmm. This is just this mystery thing flying around. And it's just mindless. And I was just everything else but the story, I just wanted... It was just so disappointing. It was disappointing.
Well, and it's really funny, too, because they have a narrative explanation for the thing that we all talk about in open world games, where it's hey, the world's ending, but, I'm going to help you fish.
Yeah, take your time.
For a couple of hours.
Yeah.
This game actually has a narrative thing where it's Zelda's got him locked away, but, you get there eventually, maybe, I think that's really funny.
Yeah.
The boss fight was really weird. I mean, maybe because I had, full up ancient armor, because I was basically impervious to most of his attacks.
Oh yeah.
And I didn't die, and I was fighting him for a long time because there was a part where I just wasn't sure what I was supposed to do.
Deflecting his beam, you mean?
I had to. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I just ended up. There was a small window when his thing would go down, his EMP shield would go down for a second, and I would just try to flurry strike him.
Oh,
gotcha.
So I just kept trying to dodge until I flurry striked, and then I did that 4 times and he died. So I'm sure there was some other way I was supposed to do it.
It's his beams.
With the Hyrule shield?
You parry any shield you can parry, or the side quest where you can get the Guardian shield. It just auto reflects.
What?
There's one you can.
That.
There's
what side quest is
the
that?
Northeast Peninsula. The guy, other research lab.
Yeah.
If you pay him,
you can buy an ancient shield.
The ancient shield.
Yeah.
You just hold it out. It auto reflects that laser.
That's
you don't
cool.
have to parry.
That's really cool.
Sorry, Ben. You gonna say something?
Oh yeah, you really hit on something for me, Huber, because when you say Ganon or Ganondorf, there's one image that immediately comes to mind, and it's Ocarina of Time, and it's peering at Ganondorf through the window with Zelda. It's seeing him chase Impa and Zelda.
When he comes out of the castle on a horse,
right?
Stare down.
Yeah, exactly.
Impact.
Exactly. I'm just saying that they make him this very notable presence. They take a moment to breathe and say, "This is a big deal in a meaningful way, in a personal way," and I kind of echoing what you were saying, Ian. I wasn't even really thinking about Ganon in Breath of the Wild.
Yeah.
It was just a thing that was there, that was an inevitability, not something that I felt like...
Well, and I wonder if that's why his name is not Ganondorf, but it's Calamity Ganon. Like, he's just a force of nature. He is just evil.
Yeah.
He's a hurricane.
Ganondorf
He doesn't care.
Ganondorf is like human.
He's
form.
ruin. He's, decay.
Go ahead.
There's almost no bad guys. There's the Yiga clan, and then everyone else in this entire world is pretty much a good person.
Yep.
Besides,
The
Boko
Bokoblins or whatever, and all those
Yeah.
guys.
It's pretty weird. Yeah, I can understand the argument for it, but you're right. It makes for a bad villain.
As far as Ganon being a force of nature, I think that's actually an interesting argument, but I would say the only time that it really worked for me was on the Great Plateau, where there was sort of this feeling of isolation, where you weren't running into very many characters. You could kind of feel what had happened. But when you're going out and you're exploring the rest of the game, and you are running into these very happy, very jovial characters, which are great on their own, it's sort of a disconnect than what's going on with Calamity Ganon. It doesn't feel like a calamity.
Everything seems fine.
Thank
Yeah.
you. It's like how I played through the game. They kept talking about Kakariko and Hateno Village, and I was like, they're very far on the outskirts. I'm like, wow, civilization must be only on the fringes of Hyrule.
Right.
And then as you go further in the game, you find, no, there's towns all over the place. It's like only central Hyrule is like off limits. It feels like you shouldn't go there. It's bad to go over there.
The Guardians are another force, like evil force. That
they're
do
not
feel
villains though.
They're not villains. They've been taken over by Ganon, but like they do a good job of making them feel really threatening. Though.
Yes.
Like when you hear that song come on, you're like,
song,
oh, God!
man.
The piano,
Which is the most repetitive song on the planet Earth, by the way. It's like a 20-minute loop, but like.
Yeah.
Once you realize you can cut off the legs of the walkers, it's like
a
game changer.
I love that.
I'd like to hear your thoughts on Hyrule Castle, because that was another part where I was like, whoa.
I liked it.
Yeah,
I loved Hyrule Castle.
I liked it a lot.
I was frustrated that like you go into this castle and Ganon is just like waiting in the throne room.
He's not waiting.
Okay.
Zelda's got him locked
He's
down.
trapped.
Dude.
He's trapped.
But
somehow,
where is it? I just felt like there was no danger or threat other than a few like stationary guardians on this castle.
And all the guys inside the castle too. They're fighting.
They're like a couple Bokoblins.
It's not a couple.
It's like the.
Did you go down and fight the skeleton guy and get that cool
Get the little
Hang on,
guys
I have a question.
there, dude.
All right,
Hubert.
I'm just saying, coming from all over this world, Hyrule Castle did not feel any more dangerous than the rest of the world, and I had a big problem with that. It was
it's
wait.
factually more dangerous.
No, I have a question. When did you first go there in the
Right.
game? When was the first time you ventured to Hyrule Castle? This is important. I think this will influence how difficult or the tension you felt going there.
Like when I finished. Oh, I guess so. Okay, I see where you're going with this.
Because
Because you finished the Guardians, it is less of a challenge.
Also, because one of the memories. So I focused on doing the memories early. So how I did it is I got to the village.
Yeah.
I met Pura, whatever, the little girl
Paya?
Sheikah.
She's
Purah.
Oh, different.
Impa's sister.
Yeah, Impa's sister, the one who acts like
The one who's really
schoolgirl.
shy?
No, the schoolgirl.
Oh.
No, not
Paya.
Yeah, not Paya.
That's what I
Also,
was thinking.
Paya
of.
is the best romantic relationship in this entire game. It's so
The one
sad.
who's the inventor who tweaks
Yeah,
Sheikah's
yeah,
and
yeah,
everything. After I got to that point, I decided to go out into the world, get all the towers, and try and find the memories first, and do that before I went in any dungeon.
Intense.
So when I got to the memory that I was like, I think this is by Hyrule Castle.
Yeah.
I went in there without having beating any dungeons or anything.
Wow.
Very underpowered. Hyrule Castle was a nightmare
so scary,
to me.
yeah.
I was like stealth to the max. Like
Yeah.
I gotta think of creative ways.
I just like
There's multiple infiltration points here.
Yeah,
I don't even know about the dock.
The infiltration points are
I just
amazing.
climbed a
You know
couple.
about the
I just
docks.
climbed a couple walls.
It was constantly.
you can.
I'm not even joking, guys.
Yeah, no, there is.
I went into Hyrule Castle,
Yes.
climbed like 3 walls,
There's a
and
way
was
to do
like
that.
there.
Yeah.
You didn't
Oh,
climb
yeah.
3 walls.
No,
it's
no,
not
you can.
possible to
There
do that.
are like 3 walls.
There's a side you
Like
can climb.
There's
Yeah.
ways to
Yeah.
cheese it.
Okay,
Give
alright.
or
Yeah.
take
Yeah.
1 wall.
Wait, you
didn't
did
explore
it
the
wrong.
castle?
I explored. I went down and
To
killed
the
some skeleton
dungeons?
dudes.
Did you go to the
castle is
library?
huge.
Did
Where you
go
get
in
the
library?
Hylian shield.
Yeah,
that's
the
I got like
Huge.
I got the memory in
secret
her
boss.
area.
Did you get the Hylian shield in that
From the
boss
secret
in
boss?
the basement?
Didn't
in the
kill the
dungeon?
It was like the
This is your boss.
Stalfos
See, here's the thing.
Hinox.
Like,
Mrs.
there's a
Secret
huge
Boss.
castle.
Yeah, like the dungeons. Oh,
Yeah, it was great. I love the
Oh,
I
castle.
rolled in there with like
Oh,
full set like ancient proficiency, ancient armor, like all these weapons, all this healing stuff. So I was like a tank going in there.
Yeah.
But I was trying to see every section of it.
Like, how sick
It
is the
was
library
rad.
with the King's Secret
Yeah.
Room?
Yeah.
yeah.
Do you read his
I don't know if I
journal?
saw
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
I
It's
missed
great.
that. Holy crap.
There's like these secret doors
Secret
you can open in the
doors, yep.
library.
Whoa, I gotta go in there.
I saw
Yeah.
those. I saw those, but I didn't get the.
I did the dungeon, yeah.
You didn't
I
get
came in
the-
through like a mine under the
Yeah,
castle.
yeah,
Yeah,
like
It's
that's
crazy.
because you can
Saw
start
them
in
on
the docks, then get on like a little cart that takes
Yeah.
around, which then you can go through the dungeon
Yeah,
parts, and
yeah.
then. But even just getting to the castle through like the wreckage of like Hyrule Town with the Guardians, I was trying to explore there, and the Guardians was patrolling there. I was like, this.
I'm
no,
just talking
this
about.
is,
I
know
you guys are
I know. We're
kind
going
of twisting my words here. I'm talking about from
So-
a story perspective.
The reveal
We're talking
of
about
Ganon.
story.
There's more helicopter
We're talking about
drones
lore.
at the castle than anywhere else. There's more
Helicopter
turrets.
Stop.
drones.
The helicopter drones are a joke.
There's more turrets there
they
than
are,
anywhere else.
they are not a threat.
I was disappointed in the reveal of Ganon during
Yeah.
that sequence.
Yeah.
Like,
That
the
is
fact that I
where
was
I'm
able to
coming
just
from.
stroll in there and just was this blob at the top.
Yeah,
I was
that
like,
was weird.
Blob at the top.
because I went
like-
I went in too low and I saw this giant mass that looked like something out of Resident Evil. I was like, holy crap! Like when I get to that room I'm trying to get into, it's gonna be like this
It
disastrous
just
looking
felt.
thing.
He felt disconnected from the entire castle, which was how I started this
It would have
conversation.
been. It would have been.
It's
nice,
he's
yeah.
alone in the throne room, and there's some like robot guardians and a couple of moboblins, goblins, whatever, roaming around. And I'm expecting his influence to be at its core. I expect to be going in here and like
Right.
battling his dark energy. When I felt none of that, and then I felt walk into the throne room and like, okay, now it's time to fight Ganon.
So what's kind of cool, Huber, is I did it by accident. I went in that room
Yeah.
by accident. If you don't go and do the other divine beasts,
yeah.
the other bosses show up in that room.
Oh, I was just gonna say.
Oh.
That's the
Oh.
yeah, that's the
other-
cost.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Of other things.
yeah, that's what happens if
So
you.
it's like a
That's
gauntlet.
cool.
All four at once.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You
or
have to
any-
fight them all at the same
The
time.
boss
Yes.
rush, yeah,
Back to back,
Not at
yeah.
the same
Oh,
time.
back
sorry.
to back.
yeah, and
yeah.
whatever ones you haven't finished will
So
disappear
that's
there.
way
Ooh,
different.
cool.
Yeah.
Also, that was nuts.
Very cool.
If you have done all four, obviously, as I think we all did. Like, it knocks Ganon's health literally in half.
Yeah.
I was just watching that health bar go down. I'm like, holy crap! Like, this is a lot.
But I guess it just comes back to expectations, and I always talk about that, how it's like your expectations can affect what you are actually playing. And
Yeah.
I expected more of a impact from him going into the castle that I didn't get. So
I feel like I'm also trying to envision like the other games how they did that sequence, like the Wind Waker, going into the castle and then coming to the room when you first encounter any form of Ganon. He's there with like the bed with Zelda sleeping there. He like does this ominous like mind reading of her, like she's dreaming of like oceans everywhere, and he has this like monologue about like your gods forsake you, you're screwed. Like, what did you want out of this? Like, you prayed to them and they like destroyed your kingdom.
And then you climb up super high.
And then you did like the
Yeah.
shadow battle. I was like,
here's the
that
thing.
was
Wind
yeah.
Waker sounds hardcore.
But Ganon's dungeon sucks in that game. There's a boss rush mode that you gotta go through. And
I mean, that's every Zelda game. Even this game, you're saying how cool it was if
Yeah.
you get there and you fight them. This is boss rush. You fight the four bosses.
Optionally.
Every Zelda dungeon,
No,
final
it
dungeon
doesn't.
pretty much does it.
if you go and kill them originally and on top of the divine beast, you don't.
Oh
have
no,
to fight
no,
them
I know
again.
you don't have to, but this is
Yeah.
like a trope. Like,
It's not a trope. It's not a trope because you only fight every boss once in this game.
you can, it's possible.
It's not possible.
The
to
new
fight
thing
them
they
more
do.
than
The
once.
new thing they do is you only fight them once. Period.
That's not a trope. Then that's a new thing.
In Ocarina of Time, you don't fight the bosses twice. You in Ganon's Tower, you redo like mini dungeons based on the
Yeah, yeah,
dungeons.
yeah.
But then to break the barrier, you don't fight the bosses twice in that one either. But like after that, they started doing it. Wind Waker, let's do like
Yeah.
a boss rush mode. Like here's
Hate
all
it.
the
Twilight
it's like
Princess,
Twilight
fight 'em all
Princess.
again.
It's like
Yeah.
come
Wait,
on.
fight
Wait,
them all
what?
again. When in Twilight
What are you
Princess?
In the
talking
Wind
about?
Waker.
Oh no,
I'm
I'm
saying
saying Twilight
Wind
Princess. You
Waker.
don't do
Yeah,
that in there.
I think you do.
Fight 'em on
You
a
absolutely
horse.
do. Yeah, you do. It's
No.
Zant. Zant makes you fight them again.
Oh no, Zant battle is okay. That's a Zant
I
battle,
have,
so
like,
you're
no
technically
memory of
right.
Twilight Princess.
The final
I beat
in
it.
the Twilight realm.
Oh, I'm
you
talking
fight
about
Zant.
Hyrule Castle though.
Yeah.
Right. And
But they
that's
still
what we're
they still
talking about.
technically do it.
Yeah, yeah.
That's what I was
In
remembering.
Skyward
okay.
Sword, it's an optional side quest
Yeah.
to fight
Yeah.
all the bosses
Yeah, yeah.
again. Yeah. This
Never-
game, you
never
can't
liked the
possibly
boss
fight those
rush.
bosses again. Once you kill them, they're dead. That's cool. Appreciate it.
Can't fight him again though at all.
But even those are like shades of Ganon, which I didn't like. The reason
Because they're
I
not
liked
they're unique
Hi-
bosses.
the reason I
I
liked
agree
the
with that.
Yiga clan so much was because
Yeah.
it was this single entity,
Yeah.
like very these like dark undertones,
Right.
Yeah.
With, like,
religious.
intense story.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and it's like going through the entire like divine beasts fighting just like a little piece of
Yeah.
Ganon's
Dude,
evil energy.
The
was
first time a giant rock monster showed up, I'm like, oh, look at this cool boss.
personality.
And then the second time, crushes my heart.
Yeah.
Yes.
When I learned they weren't
Yes.
unique, I was like, ah.
Same with the High Nox.
But when
yeah.
you
Yeah.
encounter different
Yeah.
versions of them, it's kind of cool. Like the
No.
fire one.
I want there to be
And the
one of
ice
these
one?
guys.
Yeah.
I don't know. The ice and fire rock ones were better for me because, like, especially the ice ones, because you
mechanics
couldn't
are
climb
cool.
them. You had to use
Yeah.
the arrows.
Yeah.
The Hinox stuff wasn't any better. Just like, oh, they have more health. I was like,
Yeah.
whoopsie.
When I saw my second big skeleton one, I was like, ah.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing. Like Huber said, you want bosses to be special.
Special.
Yeah.
Kyle, Link to the Past does the boss singing too.
Boss rush?
You have to fight again. Tower. You have to fight the Light World bosses again.
Yeah. I don't like it, Damiani.
Um,
A boss
I
is
feel
a
like-
special thing. A boss should be a special thing.
I feel like we're being really negative on a game that we all love.
Yeah.
Story.
Just
We're
so you
talking about
know,
story.
like we all love this game. That's
10
why
out of
we're
10.
being critical on it.
One of my favorite games of the last 10 years.
let's talk about some
absolutely.
things.
I love this game.
I can talk about some good things the story
Let's
did.
talk- yeah.
Yeah.
I want to talk about specifically how it depicts the Gerudo culture. In previous
Sure.
games, they've only hinted at what the Gerudo life was. I think Ocarina of Time probably had the most development with that in that regard because you actually got to go to like Gerudo Fortress. You got to talk to some of them. You learned about their culture. In Twilight Princess, he's learned they basically went extinct because they got like executed because they were all treated as criminals. But this game, you see their town, you see their culture. You actually the lore they had been building up that I followed for the longest time had this beautiful payoff in this game. Like I saw it come to life, and I just want to sing praises to like finally getting to go to a Gerudo town with living, breathing Gerudo and like seeing their culture actually
Best
practice.
town. Yeah.
I was like, this is great. Like, thank you for doing this. And like this thing I've only heard about in like random dialogue things is an actual place, and it was just like a great kind of like case study as well to see like, oh, it's like an all-female culture, how they treat it, and then the whole sequence of like Link having to do the cross-dressing to get in there. I was like, okay, this is like, thank you for doing some of this, Nintendo. I know people get a little upset at the joke they make at the expense of the character who gave Link the outfit. Like, there's a punchline where it's like, haha, you're really a guy under there. I was like, we're still making those jokes. That's okay.
Yeah.
But
There are
anyway.
a few weird like things like.
But for the most part, like, you could wear that outfit for the rest of the game, and like technically, like, you can make Link cross-dressing the whole game. You can pretend you're Link's a girl. There you go. Like, sort of got out of there.
There was a funny moment where, if you go into the Gerudo secret shop,
Yes.
when the lady in there is like, and yeah, you're dressed in women's clothes, that's fine. And then Link's like, what? And then she's like, hey man, it's none of my business. Like, it's just like, you do you, I'll do me.
There was like the older Gerudo lady on one of the back alley areas who also knew.
Always lounging.
Like,
Yeah.
But also their language, just like interspersing, like, the
Yeah,
Savak and all that stuff in there.
Savak.
Like, I just love that touch.
Are there any Vi in the entire world? 'Cause
Only
they're
one
all-
at a time.
It's usually Ganon.
So the rule is
Oh.
the one in their lore, the lone Gerudo male who's born usually becomes their ruler. So I don't know if that still exists, but that was the story back in Ocarina of Time.
Weird.
In previous Zelda games, I've always felt like the Gerudo sections were so confined. You didn't really get a sense of a culture because the area that they were in was just absolutely tiny. I love that you couldn't get into the city right away, that you had to go. There's this trading outpost where people are there for a bunch of different reasons. It felt spread out. It felt like a region as opposed to just one building or one specific
Them trying
place.
to get into the town, the guy like
Yeah.
running
Right.
back and forth.
Yeah.
The setup is an
Figure
important
out-
thing for why it feels so good to finally get in.
Yes.
I totally agree with that, actually.
Yeah.
So cool. And the like fairy hidden there. Talking about fairies,
Oh,
the
great
lore of
fairies.
all the fairies
Yeah.
was
I
like super
love-
cool.
Love the Great Fairies. Yeah.
And the horse god
Mm-hmm.
is really weird and freaky.
yeah.
Like, I found her, and I was like, oh, sweet, the other fairy, because I was one short. And I was, like, looking at the map from above, just looking at, like, where a fairy might be, and I was like, that looks like it could be one. And then I go over there, and it's, like, this freaky, like, horse monster god that threatens to eat you at first, and I'm like, whoa! And it only cost 1,000 to unlock, but I was like, whoa.
And it revives any fallen
Revives the
horse.
only if it senses that no
yeah.
foul play.
Yeah, you didn't like
I don't know how
yourself.
you could kill a horse intentionally.
I never ran into that.
I think if you
issue.
do enough damage to it, probably
It'd probably
it'll
I have a
get
question.
angry.
Can you use the Lord of Horses in the final fight? The like blue, what are they called? Those glowing rabbit monsters.
Yeah,
there's a
the-
horse that looks like that with two freaky
Lord of the
faces.
Mountain.
Lord
yeah.
of the Mountain, which is like in
You
the
can't
water.
stable it.
You can't stable
cannot
it, and I
stable it.
think
Yeah.
after a certain amount of
If you get off it, it disappears.
yeah, if you get off it, disappears. You can't mount. You can't board it anywhere, and I don't think you can take it into any
And,
place like that.
Just
Not being able to board a skeleton horse
That was
was
so disappointing.
really disappointing. I was like, game.
Come on.
Why?
It was felt so betrayed,
Yeah.
and then the sun comes up and it just vanishes anyway.
Oh,
I was
that's
like,
cool.
you only have a
Impact.
limited time with it.
Well,
Make it
because you
special.
can
But it's
board,
pointless.
like
But then it's pointless.
Yeah.
It's like going out of your way to get these crazy horses, and then you can't do anything with them.
That's a bummer.
You can't
Yeah.
use them as your horse. It's like not a thing.
And
I really want to go back really quickly to the Gerudo town.
Oh, yeah, go
and
ahead.
I think that's one of the biggest strengths of the story is the subtlety and just you were talking about the outpost right there.
Mhm.
Just seeing like a Gerudo or not a Gerudo, a Goron there,
Yeah.
and the Goron is just like beached, chilling out by the oasis,
Yeah.
and he's talking about like why he came there. And the Gerudos are known for like the bananas, I think it was, or the big fruits.
Palm fruit.
The palm, yeah, or like
melon.
coming for just like certain things, and I really appreciate that. I loved that about Breath of the Wild.
Yeah, totally.
Just
Just
people at different places feeling like they're traveling.
because
When
if
you
you
don't-
compare it to
Yeah.
past Zelda games like Skyward Sword, like Twilight Princess, like Ocarina of Time, the space connecting the points of interest, the space connecting the cities, there's hardly anything there. There's very few storytelling opportunities, and so for once, like in between two
Yeah.
towns in a Zelda game, there's a bunch of interesting stuff to see. There's a bunch of characters to interact with that are meaningful.
I love the
Totally.
Goron that was in the town, who's like,
like,
oh, it's you.
yeah.
You're not allowed to be in here.
He's like, I don't know how I got
You
in.
didn't let me in here. That's weird. And he's just like, what's up with that?
There's just no women Goron.
Yeah.
There's just who knows what they got going on down there.
Yeah,
That's
I
why,
don't know.
because I'm like super not familiar with like the stories of Zelda. I've only
Yeah.
the only two I've ever beaten are this one and Twilight Princess. So like I thought for a while that the Goron were the Vi Gerudo
Oh, okay.
because their names are so similar. Like that's what I was thought was going on. Like
Okay.
most of the game.
Oh, and they had to like separate each other.
Yeah, and then like they were living separate because I was like,
Yeah.
well, there are no women
Nice.
over here and there are no men over here. That must be the same.
They look completely
That's
different.
funny.
No, that's why I thought like the men were just big and the women were small.
yeah,
Like, I don't
none
know.
of it.
But then I was like, oh, okay, it's totally different. My mistake.
I want to also say, like, so you mentioned, like, people traveling. I like seeing certain characters appear in different
Yes.
regions.
Yeah.
Like, that
Main-
being
the
on a
main
journey
merchant.
and seeing them, yes.
Yeah.
I love stuff like that.
Totally.
Yes.
I got tired of saving the same character like 5 times.
Oh.
There's like a girl on a bridge, and I've saved her like 5 times.
It's like,
And
Oh,
she
yeah.
just says
two
the
or-
same thing
yeah,
every time.
there's like 2 or 3 couples that are, like, always traveling.
Looking for,
Yeah.
yeah, hardy radishes.
There's no
or-
payoff there if you save them a bunch of times.
You just get, they keep giving you free potions and
Oh.
stuff,
You know
which
what's
is...
no payoff is up in the mountains where Zelda went to go awaken her powers. There's that sick dragon who's like
Yep.
transformed.
Oh, so
And
you
you like save the dragon and nothing cool happens.
All the dragon shrines are just
Yeah.
shrines. Like
Yeah.
that, I was like, I should
Yeah.
get something
Kyle.
for doing this.
Yes, yeah.
So
Yeah.
I found that dragon very early on,
Oh,
and it
whoa.
was like, I am not ready for this.
Uh-huh.
And so I waited until the very end of the game. I'm like, there's going to be some huge payoff.
Yes.
One of my biggest moments.
Triforce of wisdom.
Yeah, right. Like, this is it. I took down this giant dragon that I've just
Yeah, I
been
just-
watching floating in the skies. I was so disappointed.
Yeah.
Like, it was
fun. Though.
it was fun to do,
Yeah.
yes, but the reward at the end.
I liked doing the dragons, but I thought it would lead to something else.
Yeah, especially because they're like they're spring of courage, spring
Right.
of wisdom, spring of power. It's like I was like you, Ben. I was like, this is gonna be integral. It's gonna be the dungeons, and I'm gonna have to go unlock some like
These
hidden
springs,
stuff
yeah.
to get like that's. I was like, that's how you're getting the Master Sword. You have to get like some 3
Yeah.
pendants
I
or
thought
something.
that at first too, yeah.
And then and that's another area we didn't talk about. We didn't talk about the Korok Forest, the Great Deku Tree, anything like that.
That guy is great.
Getting the oh yeah.
One of
Getting
the
the Master Sword, I did love that throwback. As soon as like you have to like when I realized what was going on, it's like you're gonna need enough hearts.
Yeah.
This is Zelda 1 all over again.
Super.
Like,
Yeah.
but also in the context of RP, it's like Great because she's like, well, you died and maybe you weren't really ready to use it the first time around. I was like, no, Master Sword has always been like this thing, like you can't pull it out unless you're worthy to use it. So the first time he got it, of course he had to be able to use it. Like Hyrule's story even went so far to explain how Zelda was able to pick it up in like the Wind Waker.
She had a lot of
There
hearts.
used to be like such a weird point of contention. There was a weird point. Oh, God, Cal. There was such a weird point of contention with some fans. They were like, "How did Zelda wield the Master Sword? She didn't have like the." I was like, "Oh my gosh, here we go." But the thing with the hearts was just such a nice throwback. But story wise, I kind of laughed at a little bit. Even with the Deku Tree's explanation of
Right, that's what I was going to bring up.
I was like, okay, Deku Tree, this is like borderline Skyward Sword, the stupid dragons, where I did like so many favors to prove I was the hero. It's like, nope, you're not quite the hero yet. You gotta do one more thing. Go swim in the water, go find all the musical notes.
The dragons give you cool stuff at the end is a big difference.
They are... No.
Yes.
Okay, maybe they give you cool stuff,
Yeah.
but the RP behind it was trash. In Skyward Sword. Absolute garbage. Made no sense whatsoever.
No.
But the Deku Tree sequence, like I kind of like, especially the memory you get of Zelda bringing the sword there.
Yeah.
And laying it down.
Yeah.
Like I really like that. And Deku Tree, like she tries to impart final words to him, and he's like, these are words best spoken by you.
Yeah.
Like I like the character. Didn't like his voice, but. I like the character.
Voice acting.
The voice acting may have been the reason I didn't like the story as much as I could have as well. It'd be interesting to go back now with like Japanese
the
video
DLC.
and see.
It was weird the experience that I had with the voice acting, where early on I was like, all right, maybe that one was just a little rough.
Yeah.
And then
That was me, dude. I was.
and then you just kind of kept
I was in
going.
denial, dude. I was like, it's not that bad.
Yeah,
And then it just got worse.
Every
Like,
time
oh,
Zelda
no.
talks, you're just like,
Yeah, it's rough.
Yeah, but hey, we have options now.
Yeah.
They listen to us. They give it to us for free.
I was just gonna say one thing. I don't know if you had planned on talking this. Like, I feel like we're like crapping on the games a lot, but like one of the things that, and I think we hit on this earlier about the story being fractured, and even kind of the Master Sword stuff, because they don't know what order you're gonna do anything in. Everything has to be kind of like on its own and not totally be a revelation because it might ruin the way that you experience it. But like, the strongest thing I think this game does is like just the ambient like world storytelling stuff. Like, I don't think I've ever played a game that's as satisfying to just like go around and do stuff and look around and like look at a thing and be like, that statue's got something up, and like go over to it and be like, oh, this, and like a lot of them are puzzles and stuff, like finding that like thunder trial.
Yes.
And, like all that kind of
Yeah.
stuff is just so cool.
I loved that stuff, and I simultaneously loved and hated the following thing: coming across ruined things that were clearly tributes to past games. The ruined Lon Lon Ranch
Yes.
in Hyrule Field. The moment when I came there, I called it Ranch Ruins or Farm Ruins, and it hit me. I was like, wait a second, it's this oval. Is this Lon Lon Ranch? Was that tower thing that I went into as like young? I was like, whoa. But they don't say it. They don't explicitly say it, and I love that within the confines of Breath of the Wild.
Yeah.
Why I hate it is a longer story. Too long, didn't read. Didn't have a very good payoff in terms of timeline stuff. I'm not going to get into that in here. We're not doing that.
You and I spoke
That's
about
another
this.
episode.
You and I spoke about this a little early on when I was just playing the beginning parts and you'd already beaten it. I was saying that it felt like I really liked how they seemed to be referring to all the other games as like legends within the world of this.
Yes.
So it seems like this is the real game of Zelda, and all the other ones are stories,
Made up.
or either happened so long ago that we're not sure if they're real or not. Like,
Yeah.
That this cycle just keeps repeating over and over again, and either that's real or it's not.
It's a Souls game.
Right.
Where you talk about storytelling, I think it is only after the fact when we're really closely examining specific threads or putting it all together that a lot of this comes through to me, because I think it greatly succeeds on a totally different level. Like
Yeah.
when I found Eventide Island,
Oh, yeah.
that was a story for me.
Yes.
When I went
just flew over there 'cause it
and
looked
thought,
cool.
hey, is maybe a shrine there? And then I poked around and found my way in. Like, as far as a world goes, I felt very rooted in it at all
Yeah.
times. I wanted to be there. It felt convincing to me. And that, even though it's not like a story I can sit up here and talk about like specific characters, it succeeded so much for me on that level that the other stuff didn't detract from it all that much. Like,
That part of me almost thinks and maybe this is just me, but like part of me almost thinks that the story being fractured and minimal as it was is a strength of this game, not a detractor for me, because
It's not intrusive.
it's not intrusive. I want to just explore this world. I don't mind that I'm getting just fractures of story because that's how I'm experiencing this world. Like Link has no memories. I've never been here before. Like I'm getting the story in the same way as looking from a mountain and saying like that thing's a circle. I'm gonna go fly over there because that could be cool.
But
like that's the same way I'm getting like a fracture of this story about like Zelda giving me the like rights of becoming a knight. You know, like I don't get the whole picture.
But I think the thing why we're having these criticisms at all, why we're having this discussion, is I agree with you. I would much rather have that than a story that gets into the way of those moments.
Right.
But at the same time, I feel like there's enough going on in the story that hints at possible greatness. Like it gets so close that that's where these frustrations are coming from.
Yeah.
Especially when you've seen games, like it took steps back in this game in a lot of ways with like story and dungeons, but it did expand upon, which I think was their main goal, is like the open world. That's their main goal of this whole game, but I wish they didn't take things away in the process.
I like to view it this way. I like to view what you just said, Brad, as there were more pressing matters with the Zelda series,
Yeah.
and they addressed those and rectified them and delivered something that completely had a beautiful payoff in that regard. The other stuff that you said like went backwards, I think was a necessity for them to find a solid foundation to build upon going forward with future games.
Yeah.
That they needed to cut here and there. Like story, okay, we know fans probably, or consumers, are going to still want some kind of story in here. It's going to be too jarring if we just take it completely away and leave them just with this world. But we're struggling with how to implement it. The dungeons. Yeah. We put all these shrines all over the place, but how do we make 7 or 8 meaningful dungeons worth of content without forcing it to feel so linear, especially if they're using the same types of puzzles over and over again? Is it going to feel too repetitive, blah, 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 all that stuff?
Well, and the trap to fall into is just, they're shrines, but longer.
Yeah.
Because that's what they would have been.
That's something they could improve upon in the future.
Right.
This is something for them to work on going forward. Like, these criticisms, I feel, are telling Nintendo, you did a good job with what you set out to do. And I appreciate the solution they came up with. The story, the fractured narrative with the memories, works. It was a pretty good solution.
Yeah.
Going forward, take what you've learned and see if there's an opportunity to weave a more intrusive story, but one that people can feel invested in and feel has a good payoff, but also doesn't take away too much from the sense of freedom and those individual stories. Like, the focus is so much on the journey in this game, in Breath of the Wild, whereas the other ones, like, maybe find a compromise and a balance where you have a good amount of good experiences within the world exploring, but at the same time there is a more solid driving force pushing you towards this inevitable end that you do want to see come to its resolution.
I mean, I think, like, the one thing they could do, and that is easy as a structure thing, I think it's called a String of Pearls story structure, where it's one point, and then it can branch into several, but then it comes back to one, and then you see that in a lot of, like, interactive fiction, like Twine games, Choose Your Own Adventure stories, where it's like, I'm giving you 4 options now, but they're all going to boil back down to 1. And then you'll get 5, but then they'll boil back down to 1 or 2. Because it's just impossible because the iterations get too crazy. So I think in a story like this, where you have the 12 segments, the one thing they know is, okay, you've done all 12. Now 13, because I was expecting 13 to be like this huge thing where I'm like, okay, I've got all my memories back. Here's the entire story, like what we haven't shown you so far.
Yeah.
It just showed you the ending. And I mean, to be fair, maybe you guys can tell me if I'm right or wrong, but like, because I beat the game, I had all 12 memories, but I didn't have the 13th when I beat Ganon. So at the end, she just says, she looked at me and she goes, but I don't think you really fully remember me, do you? And then, like, it was the ending with the ghost floating above the castle and whatever, so I suspect now that I've gone back and done the 13th one.
Get a little bonus.
You get a little
Yeah,
bonus,
you get a
but that
little-
line of dialogue does not change.
Oh, really?
So I got the one where Link, you see what happened to Link, the 13th memory, but she says the same thing, like, I suspect
okay.
you might not really fully remember
okay.
everything, which I thought was like, wait, was there more I
Was there
missed as
more?
well?
Right.
DLC.
But after it said the end, there's a sequence where they're just walking along, and she says, like, maybe we should go to Zora's domain and talk to Mifa's father, and, like,
Oh, okay.
you know, like, leading, like, something open. And
That's my favorite.
But
Yeah, and
here's the
it
thing. I think you're missing a super important line from that bonus scene that, to me, makes it really perfect as an ending. She says, "I can't hear your sword anymore."
She can't hear Fi.
You're right. She can't hear the Master Sword anymore.
Yeah, because she says that it talks to her.
Yeah. And so at the very, very end of this game, they're about to go do their adventure. They're about to go rebuild everything. The Master Sword isn't needed anymore.
Right.
So it means they're going to have a good life.
Yeah, Ganon's done. This version of Link and this version of Zelda gets to have a life.
Yeah.
So
I think that's pretty cool.
Until they fall down a hole into Termina.
Yeah.
What I did like...
Or he gets lost at sea and ends up on an island.
What I did like in the ending is
Down.
when Zelda's like looking back up at the castle and it's just ruined, and then Link is just kind of there, and then she just turns away and is like, "All right, let's go." You know? And then after they're leaving, it shows the ghosts of the king and the 4 champions or whatever, watching. I liked that moment where it's like looking back at the past and like this ruination, but then just saying like, "Well, there's nothing we can do about this. Let's go move to Kakariko or wherever."
Yeah,
I liked that.
Yeah, they're moving on because early in the game, the king keeps referring to Hyrule as like a kingdom that used to exist.
Right.
It's gone.
Yeah.
I was like, wait, no, like this is Hyrule. Like
Right.
your castle's destroyed or is taken over. The political system might be gone. Like the ruler's gone, but there's still a kingdom here. But the ending kind of hammered it home. It's like they're gonna be moving on from this. Like this ancient world. Like the game was presented as like Hyrule's kind of like not literally in ruins, but is like a ruined state, like
I
a
think
ruined kingdom.
Something that Impa says, maybe at the end of that little quest line where she finally tells you where the birthmark is, but she says that it destroyed the royal family, like it tore it apart. And I was like, whoa, that's pretty intense.
Like I really like that about that, and it does in that way. That part was a bit satisfying. Just again, like the villain stuff, like that part just took me out.
Are Gerudo and Goron, or whatever, Death Mountain, Zora's Domain, are those in Hyrule? Is the whole game Hyrule, or is just the middle Hyrule?
It's always varied. There's the Kingdom of Hyrule, which it's usually the map is called Hyrule.
Right.
And then there's either the kingdom proper or just the land is always Hyrule. So I've always treated it as whatever you see on the map, if it says Hyrule, it's Hyrule. Because no other game has had multiple like kingdoms in it. Like there hasn't been ones like, oh, here's Hyrule, and you go off the sea, and then here's like Holodrum from Oracle of Seasons. Like those other worlds exist, but they're never. No 2 worlds are ever in the same game together. Kingdoms are there, so they've never been as elaborate as that. I think.
And Zora's Domain has been around before.
Yeah.
It's its own king, which is weird.
Yeah, there's like the whole backstory. Like when you go read those pillars or whatever, it gives you like the history of the Zora. Like that's another thing with the world building. Like I really like that. Like that quest to find them was like, oh, I definitely want to find all these to know the full story about what happened here. So stuff like that was really good.
And I love that if you read one of those, it leads to a chest with an actually good item in it.
Yep.
There are like
there
are like 6 chests that actually have good items in them in this entire game. That's another thing.
I don't know if
No
it's
way,
that
dude.
serious.
Everything's useful.
All the weapons, dude.
So useful.
Yeah.
No, like
When you get armor, it's the biggest. Like,
Yes,
holy crap!
that's why
Like,
I feel
found
like a permanent
the
item
rubber
feels so good,
armor.
yes.
I was like, holy crap!
Yeah.
But like,
Getting
I think
weapons
that
feels
this
useful.
game is amazing because it made me care about finding arrows. Like if I find some bomb arrows, or even like now I've got like 90 arrows because I just bought a bunch. But like early game, finding 5 arrows, I was like, yeah. Payday, fellas. You know,
100%
like
that,
I loved it.
you respected your arrows,
But now I'm like, I don't need another Royal Claiborne.
but you don't respect bombs. Can we talk about this real quick? Can we talk about this?
What? Oh gosh.
The beginning of this game, you're given 3 weird powers and 3 temples. 4?
4.
4 weird powers. You get bombs.
Stasis, Magnesis, and Cryonic.
Yeah.
Cryonis?
Yeah, for no particular reason. Like, why these 4 powers? Why?
Oh, context behind them?
Yeah.
Oh, like in
why
the
do we get
story?
these now? Why did they see fit to give us these powers now? And why these 4 in particular? Why this one ice block that comes out of any surface of water? Like that's so weird.
That's classic Zelda logic there.
And it all comes out of the tablet.
Gameplay came first.
Yeah.
They needed to finalize what items you would have for the rest of the game so they could design the shrines around those without they didn't want the worry of the item gating that's
Right,
plagued
right.
the other games, where an X dungeon cannot be done by this point because we don't know if player has Y item
But
yet
it'd
to
be
complete
sick
it.
if the guy at the end was like, Link, I designed this. I
I know.
this power.
It is
You know what
just you can do this now.
I mean? Yeah.
What
That's
about
it.
this?
Yeah.
What about this?
Sheikah Slate kind of.
'Cause you have a
Devil,
Sheikah Slate, yeah.
Devil's Advocate, the king tells you, hey, when he's pretending to be that old man, he's like,
Yeah.
hey, check out these 4 shrines before we do anything else, you know, like, he doesn't let you, as a story thing, doesn't let you off the plateau until you have all 4 of those.
Yeah.
So, like, it's possible that he knew that the champion needed these things for various reasons, and that's why he makes sure you get them before letting you go. You know?
You could have given me the paraglider, I guess, and otherwise you couldn't have gotten off the plateau, as he said.
Yeah.
I just want to point this out before I forget, so we don't get called out on it. I don't know if Pura, the little girl Sheikah,
Mm-hmm.
I think she might have been the inventor of those, because she's the Sheikah Slate person. She invented the Sheikah Slate.
But those temples, those have existed for 1,000 years.
I didn't get the impression that she invented the Sheikah
Yeah.
Slate. They found it.
Okay.
She
Yeah,
figured
yeah.
out how to
Or
use
figure out how
it.
to use
Yeah,
it.
exactly.
And
And
unlock the runes.
Yeah.
Right.
Because
So, like-
she powers it up and makes the new ones, though. Like, she improves the shrine
Yeah.
sensor.
Yeah.
She can...
And your bombs.
Because
Yeah,
she
and
and
then
Zelda were researching
the
it.
secondary abilities, she can improve them
Yeah.
to do more. Like, stasis can actually freeze enemies.
Which is very clutch.
So
Do it
she
immediately.
invented. I feel like there is a little bit of context there, but not to the degree you're looking for, Kyle.
I
Yeah.
do want to talk about what I perceived as a failed storytelling opportunity, though, because as I was going through and beating shrines, I was expecting at some point one of these people at the end, they're going to say something.
Oh gosh,
Like, history of
I
this
know.
world.
Yes,
Never.
like,
And you
yes.
think about how this world is
Oh.
presented and how it has this ancient history, and you're going and you're seeing these ancient beings.
Rant
You
coming
thought
up.
it would be I thought it would be a perfect reward just to give a little tiny tidbit.
Yeah.
I
Oh, wow.
realized that there are 150 shrines, and that's
Yeah.
a lot.
120.
There are
120, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Missed
like
the
I only
number.
know that because I'm like 25 away.
Well, I'm just saying there's a lot of
Yeah,
shrines.
yeah,
I
there's
get that.
a-
Yeah,
Roll
but
it up
I,
before.
Assassin's Creed had that. Like, you get all the memories or whatever, and you get a little something extra.
Oh, you get a little something.
You
if
can
you're
get something
yeah, you
extra
get a little
for.
something.
even
No,
if
no,
you
no.
could space it out like every 10, you got something.
Yes.
It's
So
weird. They all
yes.
say the exact same
Yes.
thing.
Yeah,
Also, wait,
except for the
you
last
skip every
one.
time.
Before
Yeah.
your rant,
Yeah.
I just thought of something like, the Shrine of Resurrection is placed on the plateau with only those 4 other shrines. I think there are only those 4 shrines on the plateau.
Yep.
That have the key powers to doing all the other shrines, and the ancient ones built all of these, and the Sheikah Slate, and all the towers. Like, all this tech is from the ancients 10,000 years ago,
Yeah.
and Pura and all these people just researched it and figured it out. But
Yeah.
like, they didn't add anything besides the ability to upgrade. But like, so I think that the ancients knew, okay, whoever's using this resurrection thing is gonna need these 4 things to do all the rest of the stuff we built to power themselves up to fight, to like
Yeah.
take control of all of our inventions again.
To fight Ganon.
So they built it with that specifically in mind.
Yeah, it's
so
kind
I
of
think that makes sense.
It's kind of implied, Kyle. Like it is ancient. What I got confused. The Sheikah invented all this stuff.
Yes.
It's their technology.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty sure I got the impression that there was like a design logic behind it all. That like,
Yeah.
as Ian said, they called it the birthplace of Hyrule. Ancient traditions where rituals are performed at the Temple of Time. It's like the central part of old Hyrule.
Yeah.
I think that is built out from there, and it was like that's their logic for how they did it. It does not, the game, again, I'm just agreeing with you as well, that the game does not do a good enough job of giving you the context of that early on. I think
Right.
you have
like
to...
you can do bombs now.
I feel like you
because
gotta-
of this tablet.
They for sure
gotta
do
read
say
the-
that
yeah.
the
Yeah.
ancients put all the shrines there to train you to fight Ganon, though.
Can we talk about visual variety?
Sure.
One of my favorite things in progressing through a Zelda game is seeing how it's going to surprise me aesthetically. And while I really do like the shrines, I like those sort of micro puzzles and how satisfying it was to do each of them. By the end, after doing 70 of them, I just was longing for some sort of surprise. I would have given anything to go into a shrine and be like, why does it look like this?
I hear you every time.
And that I think that is only exacerbated by the fact that the main dungeons themselves
Yeah.
look very similar to the shrines. And so I think
Yeah.
if either one of those had a few surprises thrown in, just from a purely visual standpoint, it would have done a lot for me. And
It would have been really cool to have like a shrine that's like broken, that's like all crappy inside and like grown
Yeah.
over.
Right.
That
Or
would
like
be really
corrupt,
cool.
like the Yiga clan's in there or something
right,
like that.
Yeah,
Just
right.
something
Yeah.
The
to
door's been broken, so they got in. Yeah.
It's just hard to believe with these ancient structures that they all look the same and that like nothing has happened to alter any of them at all. I don't know. It's just a little weird.
Yeah,
Well, I don't think they're actually anywhere, too, is the thing.
Mm.
Right? Like, they're not underground. They're just in this plane.
Oh, when you go...
Oh,
Some of them are underground and like
Yeah.
pop
Well,
up.
No,
but some of
where
them
you-
are so like this is
When you enter them...
Is
you
this
go
is
like-
50 feet
elevator
away from the horse
Stargate.
stable.
Yeah,
They're right there. They're-
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
is the
In plain
elevator a
sight.
Stargate, or is it actually an elevator?
Right,
I
exactly,
mean,
yeah.
I totally agree with you, Ben. I won't say much because I talked about this on a previous Zelda Talk episode. The dungeon, like the visual progression and like just the aesthetic of them, is completely lacking compared to some of the other games. There was one moment though, and which fits perfect for a spoiler. The forest or the ancient temple, ruined temple in the ravine at the end of
the
it.
Forgotten Temple.
Forgotten Temple. Thank
Yeah.
you. I thought it was like gonna be like it was like almost like. Is this gonna be a proper temple?
Yeah, I
like
thought
with
so
a
too.
theme and stuff. And it's just like at the end, there's like a goddess statue, and when you complete all 120 shrines, you go back there to get the Breath
I
of the
didn't
Wild
know.
outfits.
I didn't
Okay.
know that.
I
Yeah,
love that they had that too.
yeah, that was cool
so
touch.
cool. So cool.
But yeah, like the lack of personality in dungeons became a problem for me throughout the game.
Right, because that first one's sick. That first dungeon, you're like, wow, this is incredible. What are the other ones going to
Yeah,
be like?
you think like, okay,
Yeah.
it's just this one.
Yeah.
And I did
Oh.
Gerudo first,
Yeah.
so I was like, okay,
Yeah,
here
me
we
too,
go.
dude. Yeah.
I do want to commend the variety of puzzles, though.
Yes.
I mean,
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I've done it, like I said, I've done about 70 shrines. Like, I still want to go back in to just see what else is waiting for
The
me.
motion control ones are objectively, I think, the worst.
I kinda-
They're trash.
I kind of liked the
I mean, I had
golf.
fun with some of those. Yeah.
The golf was fine, but like the one where you have to move the
Tilt,
maze, like if you're not
yeah.
doing it with a pro controller, it's like
Oh
it's
yeah, like doing it
nigh
on the
impossible.
gamepad.
The-
I
some
did.
of some of those, I just sort of
I thought it
like
was fun.
You can cheese it
wiggled
too.
it around, and the ball
Yeah,
just
you
like
can, just
happened to.
rotate it.
Yeah.
I
Flip it
didn't
all
even
the way
really
and
do the
the
maze.
ball roll.
Yeah,
That was
yeah,
so
you
good.
just flip it upside down.
I love that.
Uh,
But I love that you can do that kind of.
Yeah,
thing
no,
with
it
it.
lets you do that. That's a great
well,
point.
they claim they thought of all of those.
Yeah, they couldn't have thought of. Yeah.
Which maybe they did.
Before I forget, Ben made the point about the shrines. To reiterate again, or to clarify, like my stance, that these ancient, like wise ones that you find at the end of each shrine, bestow upon you some like message,
Oh,
and they
yeah.
become so repetitive.
Skip.
They like just exist in the world. Like their ultimate point.
Man, I just realized, yeah, there's like
Breath of the
thing.
Wild is the latest in the string of Zelda games where they introduce these new lore, bits of lore, a new thing that exists only within this game that seems super important. Like these Sheikah that's waiting there, like who are these 120 dudes who just like we're just waiting around forever? This could be super important. Like what's their backstory?
Yeah.
Not only do we not really get much of that in here, you're probably never going to see them ever again.
Right, you get
And,
the
like,
you get the sad story that the humans distrusted them because they became too powerful.
almost every single modern Zelda game does this. Like Twilight Princess, the Dark Interlopers. You can speculate to high hell who they really are, but you never hear Dark Interlopers ever mentioned again
yeah.
in another game. Like there's super like badass magic wielding wizard race that like, wait, who are these people?
And there's two alive in the
and
whole
like there's
game.
two alive in the
Yeah.
whole game, and then like next game like never hear from them again.
Yeah, yeah.
Like some games introduce new races, never hear from them ever again. They just
I'm
don't
cool with
exist.
that. I'm cool with introducing new races.
Not, I mean, I'm giving multiple examples.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
if you're killing for races, but like,
Yeah.
like story mechanics, like divine mechanics that just never reappear again in a future Zelda game. They seem so crucial to the plot of Game A, and then are never heard of from again. They just like move on like it was nothing. I was like, I think this is part of the byproduct of them developing the game first, story later, and it's just something that you just have to deal with. It's like it's probably never going away in Zelda games, but it still is a pet peeve of mine. I just wanted to bring that up. That like the sages or whatever they are called, the Sheikah
Yeah.
wise people who are just exist in every shrine, is another in a line of those things where it seems super important, no big real payoff other than gear. And I'm positive we'll never hear from them again.
At least they brought
they're in Breath of the
they
Wild.
brought the Rito back though, which was nice.
Yeah, they brought him back. Raises some interesting points about where the game fits and stuff. Which we're
Because
not
the
gonna
Rito are an evolution of a
we're-
different race into Wind Waker.
yeah, like we're
And they broke the mirror in Twilight Princess. That's like they're gonna be their excuse for them not coming back. To
something
that race.
like that. Oh yeah, the
They
Twilight.
broke the mirror.
This does bring up a good point I do want to talk about real quick. We're getting towards running out of time. We got about like 30 minutes left max. I do want to talk about the premise of the game, the backstory they give.
Okay.
So I'm not reading any synopsis or anything, but like the basic premise was that 10,000 years ago, an ancient race, like the ancient, their predecessors, aided by the Sheikah, built these divine beasts, built these guardians, like super advanced technology, and 10,000 years ago, then you do this giant time gap of don't know what the hell happens until 100 years ago. Yeah. And then you find out, Ganon, who's been reincarnated over time, decided 100 years ago to come back at that moment and attack, and that starts the events leading into Breath of the Wild. But it seems so arbitrary and weird to pick 10,000 years is the genesis of like the lore for this game.
Yeah, you skipped some stuff though.
They were made at 10,000 years ago, but I think that the event that precipitates everything that happens in the game is 100 years ago. Zelda's dad and all those people found
and started
ancient
unearthing
technology,
it all.
started taking it back out because it was all buried and gone.
Yeah, Kyle.
And they took it all out and started meddling with it.
Well, Kyle, I did skip something. Like they built it because there was a big epic fight back in the past.
Right.
Like they used all of them and actually successfully sealed. That's how Ganon knew what to do. It explains why Ganon knew to take over them when he came back because he knew what was going to happen.
Normal humans were scared of the Sheikah, and so that's why they're all buried. And that's why they shooed away the Sheikah and said, "Get out!" The king was like, "You scare me with your technology, and this needs to stop right here." And that's why nothing changed for 10,000 years.
So I love this premise, Damiani. I love the way this story sets up. I love the, slowly uncovering bits and pieces of Zelda and what happens. It just all falls apart for me with Ganon, and not knowing or knowing that his true motivations are just. We touched on it earlier, just huge rage thing.
Flip side of that, one thing I do like about this is it deals a lot with not knowing. Like, the king and Zelda and all these people and all the, Sheikah descendants, trying to figure all this stuff out. None of them know how any of it works. So, they can be forgiven for not knowing that it has a huge... network security flaw, and that hacker Ganon can just come in and Lex Unix its way in there, and it does kind of imply that there's this huge other thing going on that none of us know about. None of us know anything about what these gods and ancient geniuses are really up to. And so, when we try to meddle in those affairs, we're bad at it, and we lose, and we don't understand why Ganon is evil or what he's doing. We just know that he is. I don't know. I'm not trying to make an excuse. I'm just saying, if you're looking at the narrative as, a very human, human lost in an indifferent universe sort of way, then it makes more sense.
There's a battle of the gods happening. They don't even mention the Triforce.
Right.
Battle of gods.
And we're not a part of
it.
We're not a part of it. We don't get to know.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
Zelda has the Triforce at the end, though. Yeah, she lifts it up and she's Triforce. I was wondering I wanted to ask.
So here we go.
This is
here's the point I was trying to get at. To be more succinct. So I feel like they picked this arbitrary time. A lot of time has happened. The question I want to ask: did any of you get bothered by them tipped? Because I don't want to get into timeline discussion. But I want to know if this one thing bothered you.
I really want you to.
Yeah, I do.
Did you like or dislike them tiptoeing around any connection to other games other than these loose references, like the Triforce? Clearly something that looks like the Triforce shows up in imagery wise, and they call it sacred power. There's no thing called the Triforce in this game. They do not call it the Triforce. Does that ever bug you, that terminology that's been bestowed upon the series for so long, for whatever reason, whenever it might imply direct connections to other stuff, they think of different ways to phrase it and word it for the sake of being obscure and keeping things a secret.
For me personally, Damiani, it's gonna freak you out, timeline man. But to me, there's so many. For me going into it, it's kind of standalone. It's Zelda Breath of the Wild, not Zelda 7. So that's where I'm if they connect and they do all that subtly, that's cool, but I'm not looking for that. If they do or don't do it, it's not going to offend or please me either way, because I go in each one self-contained.
For me, I think that the way I was looking at it was either this is the only Zelda game that's real, this is reality, and all the rest are legends, they're all fake, they're all just stories, or the most recent Zelda game, Skyward Sword or whatever, was 10,000 years ago, and it's so long in the past
It's like a
that
million years ago.
It's like it's like thousands and millions of years ago,
Yeah.
and it's so long ago that it's just legend. It's all
Yeah.
fake. No one knows.
Which
So,
makes
like,
it a really sad element.
right.
It really means these people will never progress because
think-
Ganon every 10,000 years will
Right.
keep showing up
That
stopping
was my takeaway is that
Yeah.
the people in the world of Zelda are trapped in an infinite 10,000 year loop
Yeah.
that they can never escape
Yeah.
unless they've escaped it this time because she says I can't
The
hear
sword
the sword
won't talk
anymore.
anymore.
But at the end when you kill big giant pig Ganon, like he doesn't disappear, he just floats off into the sky. So it's like or whatever. So
Yeah.
I think they're just in a loop forever.
They also there was a line of dialogue in there that said basically Ganon is risking. Zelda says Ganon is risking all this time. Usually he just comes back as Calamity Ganon, this weird obscure form. We seal him. The cycle repeats. But she says something to the effect of, no, he's tired of this cycle.
Whoa.
He's putting all his power and malice into Beast Ganon. It's like he's all in. Chips are on the table, baby. He wins. It's over. But like it's implied, if we defeat him this time, something might change.
Right.
Like is what I read from it.
Cool.
The reason, like, I'm asking any of you if it bugs you is because I made one of the first episodes of this show. We talked about storytelling in Zelda, and I made this point that I'm totally cool with them having isolated games, but when pre-release communications from the developers, stuff in game, this tiptoes, dances around, tries to walk on eggshells with this lore and never fully embrace it, I see a potential and possibility of a serial, like, this was Zelda 7. What if this was like, no, this is the game, and that it was, but like, let's say this is the direct sequel to Skyward Sword. Those characters you came to know and love in X game, you're seeing where they're going next. And I want to present it to you as this. The next game they make, would you want to see the continuing adventures of this Link and Zelda? Like, if they go to a new, what if they go to a new kingdom or something? It's like, do you care about them developing characters over enough? Or do you really want them to just, like, refresh each game and, like, new cast, new everything, nothing continues?
I love the way Final Fantasy does it. I love that they have sequels to 10 and 13. So maybe, like, if they do it down the line, like a Breath of the Wild 2,
Right.
or they just go on with a new Zelda. I think if you have a sequel to one of the games, that would be cool. Like, who knows? Maybe the next one will be like Wind Waker 2 all of a sudden, and it'll be like a continuation. Like, I would totally be...
Phantom Hourglass.
Yeah, they do that.
Yeah,
Zelda 2 is a sequel.
Zelda 2, exactly. Yeah,
like,
so there is precedent for it. And I
that's
think
my point. Is like, I sometimes feel like as much as I don't love those games for the games themselves, it was an absolute pleasure playing through the Wind Waker, Phantom Hourglass, and Spirit Tracks to see that continuation of a world and world building and narrative. And even though Spirit Tracks was new characters, they said it's their descendants. Like, this is still continuing those adventures that began all those years ago.
Right.
Like Majora's Mask, like, even though it's a side story, I still was like, this is still the hero of time. Like, I care about this Link so much because we went on this great adventure, no great time. I don't want him to live.
They've done it a ton.
They've done it, but like they have a habit of undoing that and like reversing course and being, here's a new game, isolated, we're never coming back to it again, and then moving on. I kind of wish they would just like take the time to build like a lore Bible.
Yeah.
Like, I wish they would have taken this chance for this game to build a new lore, because they're doing it with this backstory. Build a new lore and be like, all right, going forward, we're gonna like build upon the story. Like, I guess I see a potential there for a payoff.
The only point of frustration that I have is I think about like Final Fantasy X and Final Fantasy X-2, where the tone, because of what happened in that first game, and because they still want to change the mechanics of it, because they still want to change the structure of it, the entire tone changes. Like, Final Fantasy X-2 is a sequel to Final Fantasy X, but it is very much a completely different game, and so you have this weird disconnect. I value much more in Zelda just bold structural reinvention, and so I wouldn't want that to come like at the sacrifice of expectation. I wouldn't want there to be a sequel of Breath of the Wild and then from their standpoint be like, well, we have to incorporate these things. I don't want that.
What I would love to see that I think would be in keeping with this is that we don't see Zelda or Link again. The next game is like 3,000 years later, 10,000 years later, and it's like maybe hinted at that maybe you're like the great-great-great-great-great-great-grandchild of Link and Zelda, whatever, not confirmed, But like, I would like to see this world drastically changed by the ravages of time more than these characters again, you know? Because, like, if we see these characters again, it makes this game less impactful, because it's like, they lived happily for 2 years and then Ganon came back. Whoa.
The other element that is new this time, though, is it depends on what that second DLC is going to tackle. Because maybe that will kind of fill that void on an appropriate scale instead of, like, having us wait.
It's interesting you say that, because you and I fundamentally disagree so hard on storytelling. With, like, you love lore and, like, the narrative that's kind of, like, interpretive and all that, when I just love direct characters. And that is, I guess, where I'm coming from with Breath of the Wild, that I've realized is, like, I didn't latch on fully to any main characters. It was just kind of all the small characters that popped up here and there. But I do appreciate 100% the way that the story is kind of...
that's kind of what I'm saying, is, like, I would want the second game to be that. Like, so you're, like, this ancestor, like, this girl who's, like, whatever, you can choose, because who gives a shit anymore. But, like, you're, like, an ancestor of Zelda and Link. The Yiga clan, still around, still holding on to vestiges of their, like, crazy religious beliefs, have, like, taken over most of the area. And, like, you're not really dealing with a supernatural threat, it's just these crazy people. Because, like, one of the darkest storylines in this game is the stolen heirloom, which happens in Kakariko Village.
Oh, yeah, you're
like,
right.
later on.
Yeah.
Where, like, one of the guards is like, hey, I was informing to the Yiga clan because they killed my wife and were threatening my children.
Yeah.
So I told them that this thing was here and that you were hanging out over here. Like, I did this to protect myself and my family. I was like, holy God. Zelda.
I totally forgot about that.
Like, when he said they killed my wife, I was like, is this teen? What is this game?
Yeah.
I was like, whoa!
Because the kids are crying, they go to their grave all the time.
They go to their grave all the time.
And things make sense.
Kakariko is, like, intense, because, like, one of the suspects in that case is Lasley, or whatever, the one who wanted fireflies. She's acting sketch at night, because she's going out and crying and praying at the grave of her dead lover.
Yeah.
Like, and it's like, I want to see stories like that. Like, I want, like... In a world devoid of this, like, let's say the loop was broken, Ganon is defeated, right? Now no one has that excuse to have, like, a thing binding them together. They don't have this god or demon to face. They're just people now.
Yeah.
And, like, you have to figure out that. Like, that would be intense.
So I want to say one thing about this, Damiani, about a timeline. Because I think that Wind Waker and Twilight Princess are both stronger games because, to me, they are both direct sequels to Ocarina of Time. They are consequences of Ocarina of Time, and I love that. And they make those worlds stronger, and they make those games stronger, because they're about consequences of what happened at the end of that game. I love that.
What you just said, and what Ian's saying, is kind of what I want to see, is actually what I would prefer. I don't need XCast continues on in the next game. What I'm talking about specifically, that they won't even do this, is they won't even give you what Ian asked for. If Ian's game got made, they would make these cryptic references that don't even confirm you're in the same world. You will never know. It's just speculated and stuff. You don't get that payoff. Like, imagine a moment when you come into a room and, like, his ruined room and whatever, and you saw, like, a silent princess growing there, and, like, some pages like, this was Zelda's room. Holy crap! Like, you have that emotional. They wouldn't even do that. They would just be like, oh, it's ambiguous. Like, they do that a lot. And that's what I was talking about, like, walking on eggshells.
Because I think they don't want the restrictions so much.
But this is, like, for game... This is for, like, a payoff of, like, sentimental value of, like, you saw... Like, you remember that world you saw? You're getting to see it again. And that's why you brought up Ocarina of Time and the Wind Waker.
Yeah.
Who cares about... Yeah, sorry, and Twilight Princess. Who cares about the timeline crap? The fact they're in 2 different times or whatever? Those games, especially the Twilight Princess, was more visually, was seeing places I had been to, was a great thing. But the Wind Waker, it was not just seeing, it was that game embraced the fact that Ocarina of Time happens. They call it out, they acknowledge it, they embrace it. It's not like the same characters or anything from there, but you constantly see things in this world that tell you this is still the same continuity. And they don't always do that, and if they do, they make it as cryptic and as confusing as possible. Why? Like, that's not going to affect... I couldn't make Wolf Link in this game because we had this brilliant idea for Wolf Link, but if we speculate, if we made it clear that this temple was this in Ocarina of Time 100%, it would have ruined the effect, so we couldn't have made Wolf Link. It would have forced us to have to go with Pigeon Link instead, or, some crap like that. It's like, no, it's not. Like,
hold on.
No.
Twilight Princess is direct, too.
No, it
Princess is a world in which they arrested Ganon for no reason.
Oh, no,
and Link never became a hero. Like I love that. That's such an
I'm
interesting
saying that there's like an exception where it's good. They've proven they can do that.
Yeah.
But when they go in interviews and say like, "Oh, we're really worried," I'm like, "You're talking about like a direct sequel. Like if they were to make a game that took place 1 year after these events, it's like there's only so much they can really do with the story. Otherwise, they'll be like, and in terms of gameplay elements, like they couldn't do like, I mean they could, but like they're worried people feel like." The big space aliens come down and invade, which was one of their original actual ideas for Breath of the Wild, was something about aliens.
I can see that with the Guardians.
But like they're like that would like we couldn't do that because people think it's too weird. We have to set it 10,000 years in the future or something. I just don't get why they don't like to embrace their heritage so much. They seem like scared to do it, and other than the excuse of it, like it's gonna force them to have to make gameplay. I still think it's part of this weird thing where they're like, let's just like say something and like fans will gobble it up and think, let them speculate and stuff. Like it's almost like this kind of pessimistic view.
Maybe it's an exclusion thing. Like they want every game to be standalone, so there's no pressure of playing past Zelda games.
There could be that too.
I mean, I think that's what they were kind of doing with this. Is like this to me seems like they're setting up a Final Fantasy structure where if every other game is just a legend, now the next one can be, as different as 15 is from 12 or whatever. Like. They don't have to be the same, But I mean, in my fantasy future one, like it would use the same map, just changed. But
just for me personally, I care a lot less about it being a consequence of past games and more of whatever is going on in that individual game, feeling more persistent throughout the game and feeling like more of an immediate threat. And I immediately jumped to Majora's Mask. I don't even think you have to do the time mechanic, but it would be interesting as you did things in that world if you saw the effects of what Calamity Gammon had done, if it had changed things. Like, you think about Majora's Mask and just that moon getting closer, you feel it, you see it. There is a sense that the world is in greater danger. And even if you go to this, we keep talking about how great the side quests are, and that's what people talk about when they bring up Majora's Mask. But I think why the side quests and those characters are even stronger in Majora's Mask is because despite them dealing with individual personal stories, those individual personal stories are brought about because the moon is going to crash into the world. Right. Like, the Yiga clan is great, but to me, even after playing through that game, the Yiga clan feels like very disconnected from everything else. A lot of these individual stories are like kind of nice on their own, but I want some sort of through line. I want, like, why is this happening? What makes it? What's going on in the world right now, and how is it connecting to these stories? It's like there are all these individual points, but there's no like branches stitching them together.
Well, the one thing with the Yiga clan that I do like is that they were Sheikah that made the other choice.
Yep.
Yeah, I like that, but I didn't get a sense always of, like, I feel like I went and I did the Yiga thing, and then it was done.
Yeah.
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 That makes sense.
What a cool area, by the way. When you're going up
Right.
and all the frog statues and everything.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that.
Burning the banners.
Yes.
Yeah.
References all over the place there. That was like Link to the Past when Agnum walks away and you don't know where to go.
Oh, yeah.
You gotta slash the curtains to figure out which is the past.
Yeah.
So much of this game was like references to...
Are we gonna get a reference video, Damiani?
What?
Breath of the Wild reference video?
Someone already made one, but
Yeah.
there's like... They had to make like multiple parts.
Oh, okay.
Sure.
There's
too many. There are too many.
Like,
There's a ton.
like the names of almost virtually every location is almost named after
I love
something.
that.
Which
aspect,
supports the theory that, like,
Well,
all
like,
the other ones are legends or, like, way in the past.
yeah, like there's a lot of stuff that people like talking about, like the embracing the heritage and stuff. The one of the first memories is Zelda knighting Link as her chosen knight, and she says 3 very specific things. She says something about whether she says lines that say skyward something, something about traveling time, and then like Twilight.
Yeah.
Which everyone's like, oh, that's referencing X timeline. But then you have the Rito Divine Beast, which is named after Medley, which is a sage in the Wind Waker, which takes place in another. Like, we can do this all day. And this will be another episode. We'll explain why it is impossible to place this game anywhere in the timeline.
And it makes Nintendo so happy.
Because there are references all over the place to games in different timelines.
But I mean, like, I think that supports this theory that none of the other games have.
So there's like Ian's explanation where all those are just like fake. They were just legends that were stories told that never happened, and just being like recounted in this game in that way.
Or they all did happen, but
and
like,
this game is,
the history is just so long ago that we don't know the specifics.
or they're just having fun, and this
Yeah.
game is not a part of the original timeline. It's
Right.
its own thing. It doesn't acknowledge anything directly.
Or it's the end of the timeline right now.
the
it's the
the
furthest
reconvergence theory here,
Yeah.
that everything came back together, which is
Or pearl necklace. Yes.
so. Just wanted to illustrate why it's
String
so
of pearls, I think.
why
Okay,
it's
string
so
of pearls.
pearl necklace.
Would be
This is-
preferred.
It's a loop.
Alright.
It goes around in a circle, never ending.
I mean,
Anyone?
would that be possible? I mean, for the 2 times, because it splits,
There,
right?
you can go read some explanations on how that can happen. Not gonna say it's impossible, but
Right.
there are some people like it's the ultimate solution. I was like, well, there's been crazier things. People at one point called the split timeline the craziest thing, and then they made 3 of them. So it's like you never know what could happen here.
Zelda!
Anyone have any like final thoughts they want to say?
I have a
They feel
question
like
for you.
You didn't get to
Yeah,
address.
Do
Yeah,
you
we didn't
think
hear much
the
from you.
story would have been stronger if they had like a villain kind of like Girahim that led you along through the world, instead of Ganon just being isolated by himself?
I think no. I think it would wreck it.
I mean, for story purposes, it would have made it. I felt it would have been stronger, but I think it would have fallen into the trap of making it feel more linear, or there was an intended path you were supposed to go down. Because Skyward Sword is, in my opinion, the most linear Zelda game in the series, and it works for that game because you're going along a set path. You have to follow the story this way, no other way.
Why can't they just have events that you can skip then? Like, have him at some locations, and it doesn't matter if you see him there or not.
I mean, then it makes the story trickier to write because the resolution and payoff has to make sense to people if they didn't experience this. The more elements you start adding, I think the more complicated the story becomes. I don't think the writers of Zelda that's not their expertise.
Like, they could have had one encounter at the beginning of the game where you meet this character, okay, and you get an idea of who he is and what or he or she, whatever their intentions are. So you have that there. You could skip anything else optional with that character if you want, but it is also there if you want to find out about it.
Well, it'd be really cool is if they do the opposite of the king from the plateau, where he just kind of like shows up and he's just like a guy, you know?
Yeah.
Like, it would have been really cool to have a character that you just keep running into that, like, oh, wait, like, toward the end of the game, you're like, wait, is this Ganon? Like, wait, what?
Oh.
What? This is like a Loki-esque, like, evil version of that? That'd
Let's
be
fight.
super cool.
Yeah.
To bring up Majora's Mask again, Brad, with what you were talking about, I love the beginning of Majora's Mask and how they set up Skull Kid.
Yeah.
And how you meet him and the whole sequence on the clock tower, because it makes that inevitable return to him for that showdown much more impactful. And I do wish there was something like that. I think maybe to latch on to what Huber was saying, like, to give that fight more weight, to make it not
Characters.
just feel like it's this weird end,
Yeah.
to have you anticipate it in some way. Yeah.
Like, I'm cool with ambiguity and, like, learning through images, but, like, give me some emotion.
Yeah.
Right.
Give me somebody to care about.
Yeah. They
Oh, I
could.
disagree.
I mean, I see your point. Is what I was like saying.
Like,
It
I care
might have
about the
been
world,
cool.
but there was just, like, I don't know.
Well, I mean, design-wise, something that, I mean, is a cool choice that they made is you can see the corrupted castle from almost everywhere.
Yes.
So it's, like, always lurking over your shoulder.
Oh
Like,
man, how good it
always.
feels to have lasers pointing at it the whole
Yeah,
time.
yeah, and, like,
I
you
think
can
that's
see
awesome.
them.
Yeah.
And there's, like, that old guy in Kakariko. Kakariko Village is, like, shockingly complex. But, like, he's just up there at night, and he's like, yeah, I can't tell my wife, but sometimes I come up at night and I stare at the castle. Like, I know it's super evil, but it's also kind of beautiful, isn't it?
I never talked to that guy.
Yeah.
It's so
Oh,
cool.
And, you're
yeah.
just, and Link's just like, you know?
Yeah.
I thought the blood moon was going to serve as some kind of time mechanic that was warning you were taking too long in the
Taking
game. And
too
I actually
long.
got scared. I was like, no,
That
you
would-
better
yeah,
not
that
hurry
would
me up.
detract.
But like the whole thing on the complexity of Kakariko, in Ocarina of Time, like the Shadow Temple was under there. There's this whole lore about like this dark secret history of Hyrule, this bloody conflict about them basically betraying or doing something to the Sheikah,
Yeah.
where they were basically forced to flee to establish
In
Kakariko.
this game?
No, in Ocarina of
Ocarina of
Time.
Time. Yeah.
That they were the protectors of the Hylian royal family, but something happened where they were forced into hiding.
Whoa.
And the original Shadow Temple has like this room with like a torture thing, like that had like blood below it.
Whoa.
They had to they sanitized it in future versions where it wasn't there anymore. But it was like implying that like, oh shit, this was like a dungeon where they like did some scary shit to them.
Whoa.
Like it was, so the whole dark theme has always been going around there. And real quick,
What were you gonna say to me?
with Brad's point, it might have been cool at the beginning if there were two characters to pick from. Like, instead of just running into Old Man, maybe you run into someone else as well, and they both kind of offer help, and you can choose who you want to follow. You can go back and forth. But the other one was like the malevolent force disguised. And at the revelation moment, like maybe there's a forced cutscene that has happened where the king reveals himself and then exposes that guy as like the whatever. But you could still choose to go chase them down and follow them. And they were like the servant of Ganon or whatever, like the Aghanim type figure. You know, some priest wizard.
It would have just
dude.
been easier to connect to like a villain or something like that.
Yeah.
Instead
I guess
of just
they
this
kind of
humanity.
do that with the Yiga clan trickster people, but like,
A little
it would be
bit.
cool if it was the same person through it. Because like Omar, when my roommate was playing and I was just kind of watching him, he didn't trust the old man because we didn't know the system of like people are just going to be showing up everywhere you go. Like, like painter guy cost, they're just going to be places, you know. But Omar thought that was weird up front, so he's like, I don't trust this old guy. He's in too many places at once, you know. He's like, this is weird.
That's cool. That's really cool though.
But like, if they'd actually like gone for that and then like evil Ganon dude or like whatever, that'd be cool.
But it does help when you can get away with something like Girahim. Because
helps.
Demise is the final
He's
villain.
at the end of the game.
Yeah, you don't even hear about Demise for the longest time, and then he just shows up at the end and it looks like Ganon meets Akuma, basically.
It's like they could have easily done something like that.
But Girahim carries it. You think he's like the real threat the whole game. And they do that in Link to the Past as well. It's like Aghanim, and then you find out like, oh, it's Ganon. And then in Twilight Princess, it's Zan. But then like they butchered that character by making Ganon appear at the end. It was like,
well, that's what I was gonna say. Like that was terrible.
Yeah, it was character suicide.
I didn't know much about the Zelda thing, so I was like, what the hell is this? Who's this guy?
Yeah, it just comes out of nowhere. But
what, Ganon in
Twilight Princess?
They talk about him like after the first 3 dungeons.
They talk about his execution and stuff, and but the problem in a nutshell, the problem is Zant is this intimidating, imposing force who seems almost as bad or badder than Ganon and stronger. But you find out at the end, it was all solely due to Ganondorf. And he just shows up at the end and goes, I'm actually the real villain.
He was serving Ganon.
And Zant just turns into this maniacal, crazy
I don't know
dude.
why he did that, though.
And he's like, my crazy, spoiled, whiny prince. I was like,
that
what?
was weird. That was weird.
I was like, my point is, they didn't need Ganon at the end. Zant could have been the final villain and just been it. And he could have been like, I saw Ganon once, and I took inspiration from him. They did not need Ganon to be the final villain.
I mean, I would love if they used other villains a lot more, like Vadi and stuff like that.
Yeah.
They don't do that enough anymore.
I mean, Vadi had a somewhat cool story, but he even gets nerfed too.
Yeah.
He eventually just becomes a puppet of Ganon, like, I was just using Vadi as well. It's like,
but it's like Ganon is like the big bad guy of that universe. He's the Bowser of that universe, you know?
It's true, but they've proven they don't always need him.
Like,
they can set stories in the Zelda universe that don't have anything to do with the Triforce, with like proper Princess Zelda, or I mean, it can still be Zelda doing other stuff. She doesn't have to be the princess and doing Triforce stuff.
That's my final thought, Damiani, is that they didn't need Ganon in this game.
Okay.
No, they didn't need Ganon.
Again, he was the reason I did not fully care about everything. Huh?
He's the whole reason for everything.
But I'm saying they could have done that
with
any
other
character.
Else. It could have been anyone else.
It could have been like a brand new character.
Like, why do you even need the Ganon name at that point?
Oh, because it needs to be this legendary power that comes back every 10,000 years.
That was like new for this game, like 10,000 years.
Yeah,
it could have just been a new guy coming out.
Why couldn't they call it Malladus?
Why don't they just call it evil?
Why couldn't they call it Majora?
Because I guess you're right. Because I think that has an impact on you, the player. It's Calamity Ganon.
It's nostalgia.
That's why it's there,
it's nostalgia.
But then it's setting up expectations that
bingo
it
from
never
what we've
reached.
had,
and it's a narrative trap because it's trapping you into this like good v evil hero's journey, very simplistic parable style story. You know, where like, oh, you got to go stop that thing because it's the pure incarnation of evil.
Yeah.
Duh, like you got to do that, and like. That leads to not fleshed out, kind of lazy.
Like if you have the Ganon name, I'm expecting some kind of connection to it because this is a villain that is widely considered one of the greatest video game villains of all time that I have battled countless times throughout my entire 30 years of living and playing video games. So for him to just be this big blob of energy with no clear motivation or payoff whatsoever was the driving force for me in not fully connecting with the main story arc.
Whoa.
Goaty,
nice.
though.
Kyle, Ben, or Ian, any final thoughts or something that wasn't addressed that you wanted to bring up?
I just want to say I love this game. I love it.
I think
every second playing it.
Yeah, we
I
all
think it's
loved
okay
it.
to criticize something you
Oh
love.
no, yeah.
Yeah,
I'm saying
definitely.
like the story doesn't matter. in this
Fantastic game.
The story, there could be no story whatsoever, and this game would be a 10. Like the story is whatever. I don't care. I just want to run around in this world.
It is a little strange to me because I still feel like there are so many things about this game that I love that I haven't been able to say yet. Like when I think about the storytelling failings or my disappointment with Ganon or the lack of like just failed opportunities, the shrines that we talked about, things like that. Like all of the bold new directions that this game went and succeeded on. It is a game that I will always think to myself, I wish I could go back and play it for the first time again.
Yeah.
It has that special place in my heart.
I want
Like
to still be playing it.
like
Yeah.
you're
trying to
saying,
get all the shrines. Like I want to play it right now.
like you're saying about it not needing story, there was never once through playing the game where I was disappointed in the story. It all came when it ended, and I started thinking back about the little details with Calamity Ganon.
Because you thought there was going to be some
Yeah.
payoff for it.
But throughout going through the entire thing, I loved all the characters
Yeah.
you encountered and all the different places you went and saw. The
Yeah.
Gerudo village, all of that going through it was so meaningful. But then again,
But yeah, it's like you said, man, all the new stuff's great. I love this game and all the stuff they did. That it just kind of hurts the game from what we've seen it's done in the past, and for him to go away from that in a worse direction, you know?
Right. It was what you were saying earlier, Brad, where it does so many things new so well that it's weird that the areas it's nailed, like the dungeons, aren't quite as strong here. You would think that it would do all that new stuff while having those core elements be just as strong as they've always been.
Do we think that's just growing pains? Of
I
think
Absolutely.
it's what Damiani said, where it is just
The next one's gonna blow
trying
our
to
minds.
figure out the structure.
Yeah. The
Yeah.
next one's going to be amazing.
The next one will be the
That's the
F-Zero
expectation,
GX of
yes.
Zelda. Yeah.
open. Sorry.
I want to say I really actually like the final fight with Ganon. I dig in the basement this huge abomination of this, like, he looks gross and he's scary and he's got a bunch of legs, and I actually love being out in the field for the final part, because I think the field in this game has a different context than almost any other Zelda game, because you just feel like you're there. You're out in this open land that I've been out in. It's not like a new little video game area that's been loaded in, that's got a new skybox and everything. It's like you're out in that world that you were just in. This context of you're having this battle in the real world, I think is super strong and the best possible place to have that final fight.
I was
But it
wondering
was
if it
so much worse than
Is it the
Twilight
same?
Princess.
Yeah, they had the fight.
It was so much. It
I
was
think
just
it's way
worse.
different. I think in Twilight Princess is way different. It doesn't have that context. It doesn't have that weight.
I
It
feel
just-
like
I
it
don't know.
was a
Horseback
different
battle.
area.
No, I think it is the same. It's part of the same area. I don't know if
Yeah.
you can literally get off
I
your
don't know
horse
if
and
you
go
could walk
everywhere.
away,
Yeah.
Technically, it might be its own separate area,
Yeah.
but just using
I
the
think
assets
there
from
was,
a
like,
certain
some
point of
kind of,
Hyrule
like,
Field.
But the
thing
field you
keeping
fight
it there.
Ganon in is a field you actually
Yes.
go to Twilight Princess.
Yes.
But I want to see if
I think it's
I'm
both
understanding you
games are
correctly.
true.
Are you
Yeah.
saying that it taking place in the field with this final fight with Ganon, because of how you explored that world, because of how much that world meant within Breath of the
Yeah.
Wild itself,
Yeah.
it had greater weight?
Exactly,
I agree
yeah.
with that.
You're
Yeah.
having
I
a
agree
fun
with
time
that.
walking around in Twilight Princess. It's
Yeah.
not
Right.
fun.
No.
I agree.
It's
I agree.
Hyrule Field sucks.
Exactly, yeah. And
Yeah.
here I'm in my world. I'm in
Right.
this area. I don't know if it's true that like the blood moon can happen in the middle of that fight.
Possibly.
That's too crazy.
That'd be
Wait,
hilarious.
where the boss would come back?
Yeah,
Oh god.
like his health
that
regen.
true?
Yeah, I think that might be
Might
true.
have
of
been
the
a
boar
glitch.
version?
Yeah, yeah.
That's
Wow.
really cool.
It makes me mad. It makes me mad that could possibly happen.
Probably
I mean,
glitch
that
they
happened to me
fixed.
halfway through going through the Forgotten Temple,
Oh,
where
yeah.
I'd killed like 5 or 6 of the guardians, and then they all came back. I was
But-
like, ah.
but
Blood moon
that
makes me so
right
mad
there-
sometimes, yeah.
That right there, that single thing that you said that
Yeah.
maybe this could happen, and I totally
awesome.
believe it. Like Breath of the Wild has created that space in a time
Yeah.
where I think it is so hard to be surprised.
Yeah.
there's still wonder in a game that I've beaten and played for 10 hours after beating it. Like that doesn't happen anymore.
Wonder.
Yeah.
Like there's still wonder, and like there are still secrets that I've like seen glimpses of that I don't know the solution to.
Like what?
I mean, I can't even. I haven't done the 8 Sisters thing. I haven't gotten the.
Oh, that
sand
one's
boots.
super fun.
I know, and like
Yeah.
I'm still finding like I found the Thunder Trial last night just because I was like that looks weird.
Yeah.
Like There are still things in this game that I assume that there are crazy mysteries that I haven't even, like, that people on the internet have, like, delved into.
The Leviathans. Like, I found that way in the post-game stuff. These 3 massive dragon skeletons.
I've taken pictures of 2 of them, and not the third
the
one.
one the one that's hidden in, like, the snow mountain, like, in an underground, like, you gotta, like, knock a snowball down to get big enough, and it breaks a secret passage
There's a shrine.
underground.
There's a shrine right there, right? Yeah.
I did the shrine.
There's multiple puzzles that involve. There's 2 puzzles where you push a snowball down to break open a gate door that goes underground. One of them is the Leviathan dragon. The other is it's also a shrine. I think it's
that's
like
the one I don't
lava.
have.
Damiani, one of the Leviathans I found looked like the flying whale from Skyward Sword. Is it? It had a big flat head.
Not Oshus is Phantom or Spirit. No, Phantom Hourglass.
Whoa.
I forget.
I forget the flying whale's name too. They all got weird names.
Sorry, Skyward Sword is the game I remember probably the least of the
I know,
big
'cause you
ones
hate
because
it.
I don't
Yeah.
like it. I didn't play through it many times.
Didn't like it. Still played through it more than once.
Yeah.
Which is ironic. I mean, that's kind of a topic I'd love to dive into if we have a minute.
What's
Got a
that?
minute?
You know, Skyward Sword, like you were saying, is the most linear. It's the most direct storytelling, but you criticize Skyward Sword in that regard.
Well, it wasn't bad because it was linear. It was bad for a lot of reasons. Like Ocarina of Time is pretty, and Twilight Princess are pretty linear. So is and surprisingly the Wind Waker. Like objectively, the objectives you have to do, there is like you think there's a part where you could do one of possibly 2 temples, the Earth or the Wind. You actually have to. In the right way, you're supposed to do them in a specific order as you glitches and stuff, because the sages only will go with you in a certain order.
Yeah, they didn't program the glitches though.
Medley will only go with you first.
Goodness
Makar
sakes.
will only go with you second. So
Got
it's
it,
like
got it.
okay, because you go to Makar first, he just won't do anything. He's like, oh hi, I'm just chilling here.
Oh, there's that cool part of the game though where it's like get these pieces of the Triforce in any order you want.
That was not a good part of the game. And yeah,
And
nope, not good. It suffered because of that. But the story in the Wind Waker, I love the Wind Waker story.
Yes,
I think it's probably
big
the
time.
best story in the series.
I really like Skyward
It's-
Sword's story.
Wind Waker's
And-
story is
I
good
really like
because of
Breath of the
Ocarina
Wild's
of Time.
story.
I think.
I really like Twilight Princess.
I mean, I like Ocarina of Time story, and
There
there's
we
some
go.
there is some flexibility.
Yeah.
So here's a good point.
Okay.
I don't know if the game has to be as open world as Breath of the Wild. I think that's like the most extreme you can go with open world right there in terms of design. And then Skyward Sword's the polar opposite of the most linear you can do. There have been other games I think that are more a happy medium in there for their time. Like Ocarina of Time wasn't an open world game, but those environments for its time were pretty big. You go back at them and you look at them, they're bland and kind of like boring now, especially Hyrule Field. But you can do something that's a little bit more focused, a little strings you along just a little bit more, and the payoff is you get a stronger, actually good story if it's good. They can still fail at the story, and it was like, why'd you waste your time on this? And I think there's a balancing act that can be done there.
I
But
wouldn't want the next Zelda game to be less open, though, necessarily.
I'm talking about
I
the
don't think
size
they
of the
ever will
world.
be.
There's
I'm
no
talking about
going back from
I'm
this,
talking about
yeah.
the size of the world. The world is way too big in Breath of the Wild for my liking. I love it. No, it's too. It
So
could.
good,
It could.
Damiani.
It could. The
I don't-
next.
yeah, I
The
don't
next
buy
game they
this.
can make it a little smaller. I don't think it has to be as big. The next world does not have to be as big as Breath
Twice
of
If
the
I
as
just
Wild.
get a
Big
good
with 3
villain,
levels.
I'll be pumped.
No, like no. I
More
think
caves. I would love more caves.
that. I mean, I
Some
could.
sweet
I could dig with
caves.
more secrets hidden in there.
More dense.
More secrets per mile.
yeah.
That's how we do it.
Secrets
See,
per
that's
mile.
To me, this game
PMs.
feels so full, though. It's so
Yeah.
big.
It can be
Jam
fuller.
packed.
I think I would
make
be-
it fuller.
Ah.
I'm kidding. I mean, I'm just talking from a philosophical point here. I'm not.
Whoa.
Like, it's possible. There is another option to try. I can see it. I think it can have it just as good of a payoff if executed well. I'm not saying it is the right way by any means. I will concede it might be my personal preference for them to try that. But this game is definitely testimony that it does not have to be that way. It will work if you still do it this way. And I know we seem like, at least me, being critical about a lot of this stuff. I want you to know that like it shows like how much I care about it.
Totally.
Like I see.
And we're just talking about
like,
plot right
yeah,
now,
like so.
story.
There's like always room for improvement, and I'm trying my best to say I see potential here. I'm not the person to do it. I'm not one of those weird, arrogant people like I know the answer. It's like
Right.
hell no. Like I don't know the answer. I don't make these games. They know what's better for it than I do, so I trust them with that fact. But replaying Final Fantasy X, you know how open 15 is made me appreciate a linear story-driven thing when done well. I think 10's done well.
10's like,
People
yeah,
might
it's
disagree with
really
it. Like 13's not done well in my opinion. That's a linear game done badly, and it's not because of the fact it's linear. I think the story is bad in that game as well. Whereas I like 10's story and narrative, and it's more linear. So it can be done that way and be well. So that's
balancing act.
That's my stance on it. I hope that
So you want somewhere in the middle.
It doesn't even have to be at the middle. They may be able to reel it back in towards the middle.
Yeah.
I don't know if the middle is the point it needs to settle on, in my opinion. They can maybe pull it back the other way.
They should pull a Suikoden where you're like gathering people in a giant castle.
There's one thing that is going to stick with me from this talk.
Ooh.
Hacker Ganon.
Hacker Ganon!
There's
he hacked into all those things.
We're getting a
Mr.
future
Ganon.
Zelda. And it's
Hacker Ganon.
I can just see
Space Souls.
a reveal where there's somebody who you don't know it's Link sitting down at a computer, and it's like 10 seconds long, and you hear typing, and then there's just a voice. What is
The Guardian eyes goes red.
What is Hacker Ganon?
Yeah.
Cut. That's all I
Or
want.
Zelda Breath of the Wild, entirely the same. After you defeat the giant boar Ganon, this like fake wooden tree, like flat 2D tree, falls over, and there's like Pigman Ganon like at a computer. Like it was all a simulation, and then he's like blue. It's like the Wizard of Oz. He's just like, don't look over here.
The
Wait.
name flashes on the screen. Hacker Ganon.
Hacker Ganon is like,
Yeah.
all of this is a simulation.
Oh.
Do that, Nintendo.
Anyone have anything else?
10 out of 10.
10 out of 10.
10 out of 10.
Not a 10 out of 10 for me, but I love it.
5 stars.
Say it, Hubert. Easy.
Easiest 5-star game.
Yeah.
I'm with
So
you, Dami.
far.
I'm with you, Damiani, in this game. Big time.
I've read. Oh, Jones
6 out of
has
5.
some complaints about this game. I can't wait to hear about them.
Oh, he'll go off.
He
Jones will go
he
off.
made
You
a
can
lot.
do a one-on-one with Jones.
He
for
made-
sure.
yeah.
Jones will go
Yeah.
off.
Are we gonna do a gameplay version of this where like we can say good things?
I mean,
The comments in this are gonna be so angry.
we covered the gameplay stuff on other ones.
Doesn't matter
Like,
what direction we took.
Yeah.
we've kind of praised the game in those regards
all right,
before.
all right.
So we've done
Okay,
it
never
justice.
mind.
The only things I think we've complained about were the voice work this time, but also in the last episode when we
Yeah,
did
yeah,
soundtrack. We really praised the soundtrack. We didn't really like the voice work, and then here it's just like, I mean, take some of the goods out here. Like we talked about the culture stuff, really good. Like
Yeah.
there's good stuff done in this game. Like the characters traveling with you, the Yiga clan, like the whole mission based thing. Like they're focus on good stuff in here too. There was good stuff in here as well. It wasn't all negative,
Gerudo
but
Village.
Gerudo Town,
Rito Village is amazing.
Rito
too.
Village.
Yep.
Yeah.
The dungeon was not good, but the village is amazing.
Well, unless anything else, I think we're ready to wrap this up. So I can inform all of you here, except for Brad and Kyle did this with me on the Oracles one we did last time. We have a sign-off saying here.
Oh, yeah.
We say the phrase, "May the way of the hero lead to the Triforce."
Okay.
So I'm going to count to 3, and then we all say it together at the camera.
I love this.
Does anyone need the saying again? Do you
One more time.
May the way of the hero lead to the Triforce.
Okay.
So to the hero, to the Triforce. May the way of the hero lead to the Triforce.
Got it.
Let's go.
You ready? On count 3. 1, 2, 3.
May the way of the hero lead to the Triforce.